It's got a
Sorry.
distracting movement behind it.
I don't, are you all distracted? Is anybody but Eleanor distracted?
And it looks fantasy-like.
Well, I mean, I'm actually my preference. I don't know that we really need backgrounds. I'm not going to use a background today because as I say, it's sort of like my hair disappears, and I think it's fine not to have a background. I mean, I do have a sort of distracting stuff in the background, but
Is mine distracting? I can put a white screen on too.
I mean, there's also the other thing that we can always do is just having this sort of a blurred background. I don't know if that's better, but yeah.
I can use this too. I don't like that. No.
Anyways, we are live on YouTube now. We have our audience, so welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Paul Sugarman, and this is the Instant Shakespeare Company, and today we're doing the reading of The Life and Death of King Richard II from the First Folio. And so just before we begin, just a few notes. I'm not going to read stage directions. I think it keeps things moving around more smoothly when we don't. And we will take a break on page 87 after Act 3 before 4-1, just a brief 5-minute break. And otherwise, just have, I mean, this is all about sharing Shakespeare and speaking the words. And is Angus has disappeared again. Oh dear. All righty. So yeah, well, let's hope he's back soon before we actually start. But my name's Paul Sugarman, and I'll be reading The Duke of York. And we'll just introduce people first, and hopefully by the time we're done with that, that Angus will be back. So Clinton.
Hi, I'm Clinton Powell. I'm reading Merle, Percy, Green, and the Gardener.
Okay, and Eleanor.
I'm Eleanor Elizabeth Foreman, playing Eleanor of Bohun, the Duchess of Gloucester, as well as Harry Piercy, that's the father of Hotspur.
Northumberland.
Yes, Northumberland, and Berkeley, and Exton, and a herald.
Okay, and Kitty.
Hi, I'm Kitty Chen. I'm starting off with Lord Marshal, and I have a dozen other roles, including the Queen, Bagot, Willoughby, Groom, Servant Man, and Second Herald.
Okay, and Jackie.
Oh, hi, I'm Jacqueline Margolis, and I'm reading Thomas Mowbray, Sir John Bashy, the abbot of something, I can't read my writing, Thomas Holland, Duke of Surrey, and a lady.
Yep, and you're also reading Duchess of York.
The Duchess of York. Oh, I did not know that. Oh.
Okay, I thought that was, but
no, it looked like somebody else's name. Okay.
Yeah, no, because that's, yeah, sorry. And Ken.
Ken Wayne, I'm doing Harry Bolingbroke, later to be King Henry IV.
All righty, and Steve.
Steve Capra here, reading Richard II.
Great. And Angus it looks like he's just joining us now, so we can hopefully see if things are working and can introduce himself. And just a reminder, when you're in the scene, turn your video on and have your audio on, and when you're not, stop your video and mute yourself. Angus, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We cannot see you yet.
Yeah, I can't get video going.
Okay.
If it's okay with me continuing on sound only, then I can do that.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess that's what we'll go with, since we should get started here. Since this isn't so anyways, so yeah, let's begin. And so we're Welcome to this reading of The Life and Death of King Richard II by William Shakespeare, presented by the Instant Shakespeare Company. And actus primus, sine prima.
Old John of Gaunt, time-honored Lancaster, hast thou, according to thy oath and bond, brought hither Henry Hereford, my bold son, thy bold son, here to make good the boisterous late appeal, which then our leisure would not let us hear against the Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Mowbray?
I have, my liege.
Tell me, moreover, hast thou sounded him if he appeal the Duke on ancient malice, or worthily as a good subject should on some known ground of treachery in him?
As near as I could sift him on that argument, on some apparent danger seen in him, aimed at your highness, no inveterate malice.
Then call him to our presence face to face, and frowning brow to brow ourselves will hear the accuser and the accused freely speak. High-stomached are they both, and full of ire, in rage deaf as the sea, hasty as fire.
Many years of happy days befall my gracious sovereign, my most loving liege.
Each day still better, others' happiness, until the heavens, envying earth's good hap, add an immortal title to your crown.
We thank you both. Yet one but flatters us, as well appeareth by the cause you come, namely, to appeal each other of high treason. Cousin of Hereford, what dost thou object against the Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Mowbray?
First, heaven be the record to my speech in the devotion of a subject's love, tendering the precious safety of my prince, and free from other misbegotten hate, come I appealing to this princely presence. Now, Thomas Mowbray, do I turn to thee, and mark my greeting well, for what I speak my body shall make good upon this earth, or my divine soul answer it in heaven. Thou art a traitor and a miscreant, too good to be so and too bad to live. Since the more fair and crystal is the sky, the uglier seem the clouds that in it fly. Once more, the more to aggravate the note, with a foul traitor's name stuff I thy throat, and wish, so please my sovereign, ere I move, what my tongue speaks my right drawn sword may prove.
Let not my cold words here accuse my zeal. 'Tis not the trial of a woman's war. The bitter clamor of two eager tongues can arbitrate this cause betwixt us twain. The blood is hot that must be cooled for this. Yet can I not of such tame patience boast as to be hushed, and naught at all to say. First, the fair reverence of your highness curbs me from giving reins and spurs to my free speech, which else would post until it had returned these terms of treason doubly down his throat, setting aside his high blood's royalty, and let him be no kinsman to my liege. I do defy him, and I spit at him, call him a slanderous coward and a villain, which to maintain I would allow him odds, and meet him where I tides to run about afoot, even to the frozen ridges of the Alps, or in any other ground inhabitable, wherever Englishman doth set his foot. Meantime, let this defend my loyalty by all my hopes, most falsely doth he lie.
Hail, trembling coward, there I throw my gage, disclaiming here the kindred of a king, and lay aside my high blood's royalty, which fear, not reverence, makes thee to accept. If guilty dread hath left thee so much strength as to take up mine honor's pawn, then stoop. By that and all the rights of knighthood else will I make good against thee arm to arm what I have spoken or thou canst devise.
I take it up, and by that sword I swear, which gently laid my knighthood on my shoulder, I'll answer thee in any fair degree or chivalrous degree of knightly trial. And when I mount, alive may I not light, if I be traitor or unjustly fight.
You're muted, Richard.
What doth our cousin say to Mowbray's charge? It must be great that he can inherit us so much as of a thought of ill in him.
Look what I said, my life shall prove it true, that Mowbray hath received 8,000 nobles in name of lendings for your highness soldiers, the which he hath detained for lewd employments, like a false traitor and injurious villain. Besides, I say, and will in battle prove, or here or elsewhere to the furthest verge that ever was surveyed by English eye, that all the treasons for these 18 years complotted and contrived in this land fetched from false Mowbray their first head and spring. Further, I say, and further will maintain upon his bad life to make all this good, that he did plot the Duke of Gloucester's death, suggest his soon believing adversaries, and consequently, like a traitor coward, sluiced out his innocent soul through streams of blood, which blood, like sacrificing Abel's cries, even from the tongueless caverns of the earth, to me for justice and rough chastisement. And by the glorious worth of my descent, this arm shall do it, or this life be spent.
How high a pitch his resolution soars! Thomas of Norfolk, what sayest thou to this?
Oh, let my sovereign turn away his face and bit his ears a little while be deaf, till I have told the slanderer of his blood how God and good men hate so foul a liar.
Mowbray, impartial are our eyes and ears. Were he my brother, nay, our kingdom's heir, as he is but my father's brother's son. Now, by my scepter's awe I make a vow. Such neighbor nearness to our sacred blood should nothing privilege him, nor partialize the unstooping firmness of my upright soul. He is our subject, Mowbray, so art thou. Free speech and fearless I to thee allow.
Then Bolingbroke, as low as to thy heart, through the false passage of thy throat, thou liest. 3 parts of that receipt I had for Callus dispersed I to his highness's soldiers. The other part I by consent, for that my sovereign liege was in my debt, upon reminder of a dear account since last I went to France to fetch his queen. Now swallow down that lie. For Gloucester's death I slew him not, but to my own disgrace neglected my sworn duty in that case. For you, my noble lord of Lancaster, the honorable father to my foe, once I did lay in ambush for your life, a trespass that doth vex my grieved soul. But ere I last received the sacrament, I did confess it, and exactly begged your grace's pardon, and I hope I had it. This is my fault. As for the rest appealed, it issues from the rancor of a villain, a recreant and most degenerate traitor, which in myself I boldly will defend, and interchangeably hurl down my gash upon this overweening traitor's foot to prove myself a loyal gentleman, even in the best blood chambered in his bosom, in haste whereof most hardly I pray your highness to assign our trial day.
Wrath-kindled gentlemen, be ruled by me. Let's purge this collar without letting blood. This we prescribe, though no physician, deep malice makes too deep incision. Forget, forgive, conclude, and be agreed. Our doctors say this is no time to bleed. Good uncle, let this end where it begun. Will calm the Duke of Norfolk, you, your son.
To be a makepeace shall become my age. Throw down, my son, the Duke of Norfolk's gage.
And Norfolk throw down his.
When, Harry? When? Obedience bids. Obedience bids. I should not bid again.
Norfolk throw down, we bid. There is no boosh.
Myself I throw, dread sovereign, at thy foot. My life thou shalt command, but not my shame. The one my duty owes, but my fair name, despite of death, that lives upon my grave to dark dishonest use, thou shalt not have. I am disgraced, impeached, and baffled here, pierced to the soul with slander's venom spear, the which no balm can cure, but his heart blood which breathe this poison.
Rage must be withstood. Give me his gauge. Lions make leopards tame.
Yea, but not change his spots. Take but my shame, and I resign my gauge. My dear, dear Lord, the purest treasure mortal times afford, and spotless reputation, that away men are but gilded loam or painted clay, a jewel in 10 times bared my chest, bared up chest in a bold spirit and a loyal breast. Mine honor is my life, both grown in one. Take honor from me, and my life is done. Then, dear my liege, my honor let me try, in that I live, and for that will I die.
Cousin, throw down your gauge. Do you begin?
Oh, heaven defend my soul from such foul sin. Shall I seem crestfallen in my father's sight? Or with pale beggar fear impeach my height before this outdared dastard? Ere my tongue shall wound mine honor with such feeble wrong, or sound so base a pall, my teeth shall tear the slavish motive of recanting fear, and spit it bleeding in his high disgrace, where shame doth harbor even in Mowbray's face.
We were not born to sue, but to command, which, since we cannot do to make you friends, be ready, as your lives shall answer it, at Coventry upon St. Lambert's Day. There shall your swords and lances arbitrate the swelling difference of your settled hate. Since we cannot atone you, you shall see justice design the victor's chivalry. Lord Marshal, command our officers at arms be ready to direct these home alarms.
Alas, the part I had in Gloucester's blood doth more solicit me than your exclaims, to stir against the butchers of his life. But since correction lieth in those hands which made the fault that we cannot correct, put we our quarrel to the will of heaven, who when they see the hours ripe on earth will rain hot vengeance on offenders' heads.
Finds brotherhood in thee no sharper spur? Hath love in thy old blood no living fire? Edward's 7th son, whereof thyself art one, were as 7 vials of his sacred blood, or 7 fair branches springing from one root. Some of those 7 are dried by nature's course, some of those branches by the destinies cut. But Thomas, my dear lord, my life, my Gloucester, 1 vial full of Edward's sacred blood, 1 flourishing branch of his most royal root is cracked, and all the precious liquor spilt is hacked down, and his summer leaves all faded by envy's hand and murder's bloody axe. Gaunt, his blood was thine. That bed, that wound, that metal, that self-mold that fashioned thee, made him a man. And though thou livest and breathest, yet art thou slain in him. Thou dost consent, in some large measure, to thy father's death, in that thou seest thy wretched brother die, who was the model of thy father's life. Call it not patience, God. It is despair. It's suffering thus thy brother to be slaughtered. Thou showst the naked pathway to thy life, teaching stern murder how to butcher thee, that which in mean men we entitle patience is pale, cold cowardice in noble breasts. What shall I say? To safeguard thine own life, the best way is to venge my Gloucester's death.
Heaven's is the quarrel, for heaven substitute his deputy anointed in his sight, hath caused his death, the which if wrongfully let heaven revenge, for I may never lift an angry arm against his minister.
Where then, alas, may I complain myself?
To heaven, the widow's champion to defence.
Why then I will, Farewell, old Gaunt. Thou goest to Coventry, there to behold our cousin Hereford and fell Mowbray fight. Oh, sit my husband's wrongs on Hereford's spear, that it may enter butcher Mowbray's breast. Or if misfortune miss the first career, may be Mowbray's sins so heavy in his bosom that they may break his foaming courser's back and throw the rider headlong in the lists, a caitiff recreant to my cousin Hereford. Farewell, old Gaunt. Thy sometimes brother's wife with her companion grief must end her life.
Sister, farewell. I must to Coventry. As much good stay with thee as goes with me.
Yet one word more. Grief boundeth where it falls, not with the empty hollowness, but wait. I take my leave before I've begun, for sorrow ends not when it seemeth done. Commend me to my brother Edmund York. Lo, this is all. Nay, yet depart not so. Though this be all, do not so quickly go. I shall remember more. Bid him. Oh, what? With all good speed at Plashy visit me. Alack, and what shall good old York there see but empty lodgings and unfurnished walls, unpeopled offices, untrodden stones? And what here therefore welcome but my groans? Therefore commend me, let him not come there to seek out sorrow that dwells everywhere. Desolate, desolate will I hence and die. The last leave of thee takes my weeping eye.
My Lord Almery, is Harry Hereford armed?
Yea, at all points and longs to enter in.
Duke of Norfolk, frightfully and bold, stays but the summons of the appellant's trumpet.
Why then the champions are prepared and stay for nothing but his majesty's approach.
Richard? Enter King Gaunt, Bushy, Bagot, Green, and others, then Mowbray in armor and herald. King Richard.
Marshal, demand of yonder champion the cause of his arrival here in arms. Ask him his name, and orderly proceed to swear him in the justice of his cause.
In God's name, and the king's who say art, why thou comest thus knightly clad in arms, against what man thou comest, and what's thy quarrel? Speak truly on thy knighthood and thine oath, so defend thee heaven and thy valor.
My name is Thomas Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, who hither comes engaged by my oath, which heaven defend a knight should violate, both to defend my loyalty and truth to God, my king, and his succeeding issue against the Duke of Hereford. That appeals me, and by the grace of God in this mine arm, to prove him in defending of myself a traitor to my God, my king, and me. And as I truly fight, defend me heaven.
Marshal, ask yonder knight in arms both who he is and why he cometh hither, thus placed in habiliments of war, and formally, according to our law, depose him in the justice of his cause.
What is thy name? And wherefore comes ye hither before King Richard in his royal list? Against whom comest thou? And what's thy quarrel? Speak like a true knight, so defend thee heaven.
Harry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby am I, who ready here do stand in arms to prove by heaven's grace and my body's valor in lists on Thomas Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, that he's a traitor foul and dangerous to God of heaven, King Richard, and to me. And as I truly fight, defend me heaven.
On pain of death, no person be so bold or daring, hardy as to touch the lists, except the marshal and such officers appointed to direct these fair designs.
Lord Marshal, let me kiss my sovereign's hand and bow my knee before his majesty, for Mowbray and myself are like two men that vow a long and weary pilgrimage. Then let us take a ceremonious leave and loving farewell of our several friends.
The appellant in all duty greets your highness and craves to kiss your hand and take his leave.
We will descend and fold him in our arms. Cousin of Hereford, as thy cause is just, so be thy fortune in this royal fight. Farewell, my blood, which if today thou shed. Lament we may, but not revenge thee dead.
Oh, let no noble eye profane a tear for me if I be gored with Mowbray's spear. As confident as is the falcon's flight against a bird do I with Mowbray fight. My loving lord, I take my leave of you, my noble cousin, Lord O'Merle, not sick, although I have to do with death, but lusty, young, and cheerly drawing breath. Lo, as at English feast, so I repeat the daintiest last to make the end most sweet. O thou, the earthy author of my blood, whose youthful spirit in me regenerate doth with a twofold rigor lift me up to reach at victory above my head. Add proof unto mine armor with thy prayers, and with thy blessing steel my lance's points, that it may enter Mowbray's waxen coat and furnish new the name of John a Gaunt, even in the lusty hair of the sun.
Heaven in thy good cause make thee prosperous. Be swift like lightning in the execution, and let thy blows doubly redoubled fall like amazing thunder on the casque of thy amazed pernicious enemy. Rouse up thy youthful blood, be valiant, and live.
Mine innocence in St. George thrive.
However heaven or fortune cast my lot, there lives or dies, true to King Richard's throne, a loyal, just, and upright gentleman. Never did captive with a freer heart cast off his chains of bondage and embrace his golden, uncontrolled and franchise mind, mint, more than my dancing soul doth celebrate the feast of battle with mine adversary. Most mighty liege and my companion peers, take from my mouth the wish of happy years. As gentle as Jacondas to jest, go I to fight. Truth has a quiet breast.
Farewell, my lord. Securely I espy virtue with valor couched in thine eye. Order the trial, marshal, and begin.
Harry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby, receive thy lance, and heaven defend thy right.
Strong as a tower in hope, I cry amen.
Go bear this lance to Thomas D. of Norfolk.
Harry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby stands here for God, his sovereign, and himself, on pain to be found false and recreant, to prove the Duke of Norfolk, Thomas Mowbray, a traitor to his God, his king, and him, and dares him to set forwards to the fight.
Someone, go ahead.
Here standeth Thomas Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, on pain to be found false and recreant, both to defend himself and to approve. Henry of Hereford, Lancaster, and Derby, to God his sovereign, and to him disloyal. courageously and with a free desire attending but the signal to begin.
Sound trumpets and set forward combatants. Stay, the king hath thrown his warder down.
You're muted, my liege.
You,
Let them lay by their helmets and their spears, and both return back to their chairs again. Withdraw with us, and let the trumpet sound while we return these dukes what we decree. Draw near and list. What with our counsel we have done, for that our kingdom's earth should not be soiled with that dear blood which it hath fostered, and for our eyes do hate the dire aspect of civil wounds plowed up with neighbors' swords, which so roused up the boisterous untuned drums with harsh resounding trumpets' dreadful bray, and grating shock of wrathful iron arms might from our quiet confines fright fair peace, and make us wade even in our kindred's blood. Therefore we banish you, our territories. You, cousin Hereford, upon pain of death, till twice 5 summers have enriched our fields, shall not re-greet our fair dominions, but tread the stranger paths of banishment.
Your will be done. This must my comfort be. That sun that warms you here shall shine on me. And those his golden beams to you here lend shall point on me and gild my banishment.
Norfolk, for thee remains a heavier dome, which I with some unwillingness pronounce. The sly, slow hours shall not determine at the dateless limit of thy dear exile, the hopeless word of never to return. Breathe I against thee upon pain of life.
what page we are? My script just disappeared.
Top of 21.
Top of 21. A heavy sentence, my most sovereign liege, and all unlooked for from your highness's mouth. A dearer merit, not so deep a main, as to be cast forth in the coming air, have I served at your highness's hand. The language I have learned these 40 years, my native English, now I must forego. And now my tongue's use is to me no more than an unstringed violin or a harp, or like a cunning instrument cased up, or being open put into his hands that knows no touch to tune the harmony. Within my mouth you have engalled my tongue, doubly percussed with my teeth and lips, and dull, unfeeling, barren ignorance is made my gaoler to attend on me. I am too old, too fawn upon a nurse, too far in years to be a pupil now. What is thy sentence then but speechless death, which robs my tongue from breathing native breath?
It boots thee not to be compassionate. After our sentence, plaining comes too late.
Then thus I turn me from my country's light to dwell in solemn shades of endless night.
Richard?
Return again and take an oath with thee. Lay on our royal sword your banished hands. Swear by the duty that you owe to heaven. Our part therein we banish with ourselves, to keep the oath that we administer. You never shall, so help you truth and heaven, embrace each other's love in banishment, nor ever look upon each other's face, nor ever write, greet, or reconcile the lowering tempest of your homebred hate, nor ever be advised purpose meet to plot, contrive, or complot any ill against us, our state, our subjects, or our land.
I swear.
And I to keep orders.
Norfolk, so far as to mine enemy, by this time had the king permitted us, one of our souls had wandered in the air, banished this frail sepulchre of our flesh, as now our flesh is banished from this land. Confess thy treasons ere thou fly this realm, since thou hast far to go. Bear not along the clogging burden of a guilty soul.
Oh, Bolingbroke, if ever I were traitor, my name to be blotted from the book of life, and I from heaven banished as from hence. But what thou art, heaven thou and I do know, and all too soon I fear the king shall rue. Farewell, my liege, now no way can I stray, save back to England or the world's my way.
Uncle, even in the glasses of thine eyes, I see thy grieved heart. Thy sad aspect hath from the number of his banished years plucked 4 away. 6 frozen winters spent, return with welcome home from banishment.
How long a time lies in one little word. 4 lagging winters and 4 wanton springs end in a word. Such is the breath of kings.
I thank my liege that in regard of me he shortens 4 years of my son's exile. But little advantage shall I reap thereby, for ere the 6 years that he hath to spend can change their moons and bring their times about, my oil-dried lamp and time-bewasted light shall be extinct with age and endless night. Thy inch of taper will be burnt and done, and blindfold death not let me see my son.
I'm sorry, I'm having a lot of trouble.
24 on the top. Why, uncle, the king, why, uncle, thou hast many years to live. Page 24.
Why, uncle, thou hast many years to live.
But not a minute, king, that thou canst give. Shorten my days thou canst with sudden sorrow, and pluck nights from me, but not lend a morrow. Thou canst help time to furry me with age, but stop no wrinkle in his pilgrimage. Thy word is current with him for my death, but dead, thy kingdom cannot buy my breath.
Thy son is banished upon good advice, whereto thy tongue a party verdict gave. Why at our justice seems thou then to lour?
Things sweet to taste prove in this digestion sour. You urge me as a judge, but I had rather you would bid me argue like a father. Alas, I looked when some of you should say I was too strict to make mine own away. But you gave leave to my unwilling tongue against my will to do myself this wrong.
Cousin, farewell. And uncle, bid him so. 6 years we banished him, and he shall go.
Cousin, farewell. What presence must not know from where you do remain, let paper show.
My lord, no leave take I, for I will ride as far as land will let me by your side.
To what purpose dost thou hoard thy words, that thou returnst no greeting to thy friends?
I have too few to take my leave of you. When the tongue's office shall be prodigal, to breathe the abundant dollar of the heart.
Thy grief is but thy absence for a time.
Joy absent, grief is present for that time.
What is 6 winters? They are quickly gone.
To men enjoy, but grief makes 1 hour 10.
Call it a travel that thou takest for pleasure.
My heart will sigh when I miscall it so, which finds it an enforced pilgrimage.
The sullen passage of thy weary steps esteem a soil, wherein thou art to set the precious jewel of thy home return.
Oh, who can hold a fire in his hand by thinking on the frosty Caucasus, or cloy the hungry edge of appetite by bare imagination of a feast, or wallow naked in December snow by thinking on fantastic summer's heat? Oh no, the apprehension of the good gives but a greater feeling to the worse. Fell sorrow's tooth doth ever rankle more than when it bites, but lanceth not the sore.
Come, come, my son, I'll bring thee on thy way. Had I thy youth and cause, I would not stay.
Then England's ground, farewell. Sweet soil, adieu. My mother and my nurse, which bears me yet, where'er I wander, boast of this I can, though banished, yet a true-born Englishman.
We did observe. Cousin Amr, how far brought you High Hereford on his way?
I brought High Hereford, if you call him so, but to the next highway, and there I left him.
And say what stores of parting tears were shed.
Faith, none for me, except the northeast wind, which then grew bitterly against our face, awake the sleepy room, and so by chance did grace our hollow parting with a tear.
What said our cousin when you parted with him?
Farewell, and for my heart disdained for my tongue should so profane the word that taught me craft to counterfeit oppression of such grief. That word seemed buried in my sorrow's grave. Mary, would the word farewell have lengthened hours and added years to his short banishment? He should have had a volume of farewells, but since it would not, he had none of me.
He is our cousin, but 'tis doubt when time shall call him home from banishment. Whether our kinsman come to see his friends, ourself and Bushy, here Bagot and Green observed his courtship to the common people, how he did seem to dive into their hearts with humble and familiar courtesy. What reverence he did throw away on slaves, wooing poor craftsmen with the crafts of souls and patient underbearing of his fortune, as 'twere to banish their effects with him. Off goes his bonnet to an oyster wench, a brace of draymen, bid God speed him well, and had the tribute of his supple knee with thanks to my countrymen, my loving friends, as were our England in reversion his, and he our subjects' next degree in hope.
Well, he is gone, and with him go these thoughts. Now for the rebels which stand out in Ireland, expedient manage must be made by liege, ere further leisure yield them further means for their advantage and your highness' loss.
We will ourselves in person to this war. And for our coffers, with too great a court and liberal largesse are grown somewhat light, we are enforced to farm our royal realm, and revenue whereof shall furnish us from our affairs in hand. If that comes short, our substitutes at home shall have blank charters, whereto, when they shall know what men are rich, they shall subscribe them for large sums of gold, and send them after to supply our wants. For we will make for Ireland presently. Bushy, what news?
Old John of Gaunt is very sick, my lord, suddenly taken, and hath sent post haste to entreat your majesty to visit him.
Well, I see.
At Ely House.
Now put it heaven in his physician's mind to help him to his grave immediately. The lining of his coffers shall make coats to deck our soldiers for these Irish wars. Come, gentlemen, let's all go visit him. Pray heaven we may make haste and come too late.
Will the king come that I may breathe my last in wholesome counsel to his unstaid youth?
Vex not yourself, no, nor strive not with your breath, for all in vain comes counsel to his ear.
Ah, but they say the tongues of dying men enforce attention like deep harmony. The words are scarce, they are seldom spent in vain, for they breathe truth that breathe their words in pain. He that no more must say is listened more than they whom youth and ease have taught to gloss. More are men's ends marked than their lives before. The setting sun and music in the close, as the last taste of sweets is sweetest last. writ in remembrance more than things long past. Though Richard my life's counsel would not hear, my death's sad tale may yet undeaf his ear.
No, it is stopped with other flattering sounds as praises of his state. Then there are found lascivious meters, to whose venom sound the open ears of youth doth always listen, reports of fashions in proud Italy, whose manners still our tardy apish nation limps after in base imitation. Where doth the world thrust forth of vanity, so it be new there's no respect how vile, that is not quickly buzzed into his ears? That all too late comes counsel to be heard, where will doth mutiny with wit's regard. Direct not him whose way himself will choose. 'Tis breath thou lack'st, and that breath wilt thou lose.
Methinks I am a prophet new inspired, and thus expiring do foretell of him his rash, fierce blaze of riot cannot last, for violent fires soon burn out themselves. Small showers last long, but sudden storms are short. He tires betimes, that spurs too fast betimes, with eager feeding food doth choke the feeder. Light vanity, insatiate cormorant, consuming means soon preys upon itself. The royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall, or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this nurse, this teeming womb of royal kings, feared by their breed and famous for their birth, renowned for their deeds, is as far from home for Christian service and true chivalry, as is the sepulchre and stubborn Jewry of the world's ransom. Blessed Mary's Son, this land of such dear soul, this dear, dear land, dear for her reputation through the world, is now leased out. I die pronouncing it, like to a tenement or a pelting farm. England bound in with a triumphant sea, whose rocky shore beats back the envious siege of watery Neptune, is now bound in with shame, with inky blots and rotten parchment bonds. That England that was wont to conquer others hath made a shameful conquest of itself. Would the scandal vanish with my life, how happy then were my ensuing death.
The king is come, deal mildly with his youth, for young hot colts being raged do rage the more.
How fares our noble Uncle Lancaster?
What comfort, man? How is't with aged Gaunt?
Oh, how that name befits my composition, old Gaunt indeed, and gaunt in being old. Within me grief hath kept a tedious fast, and who abstains from meat that is not gaunt. For sleeping England long time I watched, watching breeds leanness. Leanness is all gaunt. The pleasure that some fathers feed upon is my strict fast. I mean my children's looks, and therein fasting hast thou made me gaunt. Gaunt am I for the grave, gaunt as a grave, whose hollow womb inherits naught but bones.
Can sick men play so nicely with their names?
No, misery makes sport to mock itself. Since thou dost seek to kill my name in me, I mock my name, great king, to flatter thee.
Should dying men flatter those that live?
No, no, men living flatter those that die.
Thou now a dying, say'st thou flatter me?
No, no, thou diest, though I the sicker be.
I am in health, I breathe, I see thee ill.
Now he that made me knows I see thee ill. Ill in myself to see, and in thee seeing ill. Thy deathbed is no lesser than the land, wherein thou liest in reputation sick, and thou too careless patient as thou art, commits thy anointed body to the cure of those physicians that first wounded thee. 1,000 flatterers sit within thy crown, whose compass is no bigger than thy head, and yet encaged in so small a verge, the waste is no whit lesser than thy land. Oh, had thy grandsire with a prophet's eye seen how his son's son should destroy his sons, from forth thy reach he would have laid thy shame, deposing thee before thou wert possessed, which art possessed now to depose thyself. Why, cousin, were thou regent of the world, it were a shame to let his land by lease. But for thy world, enjoying but this land, is it not more than shame to shame it so? Landlord of England art thou, and not king. Thy state of law is bond save to the law, and
thou, a lunatic, lean-witted fool, presuming on an age's privilege, darest, with thy frozen admonition, make pale our cheek, chasing the royal blood with fury from his native residence? Now by my seats, right royal majesty, wert thou not brother to the great Edward's son, this tongue that runs so roundly in thy head should run thy head from thy unreverent shoulders.
oh, spare me not, my brother's Edward's son, for that I was his father's Edward's son. That blood already, like the pelican, thou hast tapped out and drunkenly caroused. My brother Gloucester, plain, well-meaning soul, whom fair befall in heaven mongst happy souls, may be a present and witness good that thou respect'st not spilling Edward's blood. Join with the present sickness that I have, and I in unkindness be like crooked age, to crop at once a too long withered flower. Live in thy shame, but die not shame with thee. These words hereafter thy tormentors be. Convey me to my bed, then to my grave. Love they to live that love and honor have.
And let them both die that age and sullens have, for both hast thou, and both become the grave.
I do beseech your majesty, impute his words to wayward sickliness and age in him. He loves you on my life, and holds you dear as Harry, Duke of Hereford, were he here.
Right, you say true. As Hereford's love, so his. As theirs, so mine, and all be as it is.
My liege, old Gaunt commends him to your majesty.
What says he?
Nay, nothing, all is said. His tongue is now a stringless instrument. Words, life, and all old Lancaster hath spent.
Be York the next.
Be York the next that must be bankrupt so, though death be poor, it ends a mortal woe.
The ripest fruit falls first, and so doth he. His time is spent, our pilgrimage must be. So much for that. Now for our Irish wars. And now for our Irish wars. We must supplant these rough, rug-headed kerns which live like venom where no venom else but only they are privileged to live. And for these great affairs, do ask some charge toward our assistance. The plate, coin, revenues, and movables, whereof our uncle Gaunt did stand possessed.
How long shall I be patient? Oh, how long shall tender duty make me suffer wrong? Not Gloucester's death, nor Hereford's banishment, nor Gaunt's rebukes, nor England's private wrongs, nor the prevention of poor Bolingbroke about his marriage, nor my own disgrace, have ever made me sour my patient cheek, or bend one wrinkle on my sovereign's face. I am the last of noble Edward's sons, of whom thy father, Prince of Wales, was first. In war was never lion raged more fierce, in peace was never gentle lamb more mild, than was that young and princely gentleman. His face thou hast, for even so looked he, accomplished with the number of thy hours. But when he frowned, it was against the French, and not against his friends. His noble hand did win what he did spend, and spent not that which his triumphant father's hand had won. His hands were guilty of no kindred's blood, but bloody with the enemies of his kin. Oh, Richard, York is too far gone with grief, or else he never would compare between.
Why, uncle, what's the matter?
Oh, my liege, pardon me if you please. If not, I please not to be pardoned, am content with all. Seek you to seize and grip into your hands the royalties and rights of banished Hereford? Is not Gaunt dead, and doth not Hereford live? Was not Gaunt just, and is not Harry true? Did not the one deserve to have an heir? Is not his heir a well-deserving son? Take Hereford's rights away, and take from time his charters and his customary rights. Let not tomorrow then ensue today. Be not thyself. For how art thou a king, but by fair sequence and succession? Now, afore God, God forbid I say true, if you do wrongfully seize Hereford's right, call in his letters patents that he hath by his attorneys general to sue his livery, and deny his offered homage, you pluck 1,000 dangers on your head, you loose 1,000 well-disposed hearts, and prick my tender patience to those thoughts which honor and allegiance cannot think.
Think what you will. We seize into our hands his plate, his goods, his money, and his lands.
I'll not be by the while. My liege, farewell. What will ensue hereof there's none can tell, but by bad courses may be understood that their events can never fall out good.
Go, Bushy, to the Earl of Wiltshire straight. Bid him repair us to Ely House and see this business. Tomorrow night we will for Ireland, and 'tis time, I trow, and we create in absence of ourself our Uncle York, Lord Governor of England. For he is just and always loved us well. Come on, our queen. Tomorrow we must part. Be merry, for our time of stay is short.
Well, Lord, the Duke of Lancaster is dead.
And living too, for now his son is Duke.
Barely in title, not in revenue.
Richly in both, if justice had her right.
My heart is great, but it must break with silence, that be disburdened with a liberal tongue.
Nay, speak thy mind, and let him ne'er speak more that speaks thy words against, to do thee harm.
And that thou speaks to the Duke of Hereford, if it be so, out with it boldly, man. Quick is mine ear to hear of good towards him.
No good at all that I can do for him unless you call it good to pity him, bereft and gelded of his patrimony.
Now, for heaven, to shame such wrongs are born. In him a noble prince, and many more of noble blood in this declining land. The king is not himself, but basely led by flatterers, and what they will inform merely in hate against any of us all, that will the king severely prosecute against us, our lives, our children, and our heirs.
The commons hath he piled with grievous taxes, and quite lost their hearts. The nobles hath he fined for ancient quarrels, and quite lost their hearts.
And daily new exactions are devised as blanks, benevolences, and I wot not what. But what of God's name doth become of this?
Wars hath not wasted it, for word he hath not, but basely yielded upon compromise that which his ancestors achieved with blows. More hath he spent in peace than they in wars.
The Earl of Wiltshire hath the realm in farm.
The king's grown bankrupt like a broken man.
Reproach and dissolution hangeth over him.
He hath not money for these Irish wars, his burdenous taxations notwithstanding, but by the robbing of the banished duke.
His noble kinsman, most degenerate king. But lords, we hear this fearful tempest sing, yet seek no shelter to avoid the storm. We see the wind sit sore upon our sails, and yet we strike not, but securely perish.
We see the very wreck that we must suffer, and unavoided is the danger now for suffering, so the causes of our wreck.
Not so. Oh, sorry.
Not so. Even through the hollow eyes of death I spy life peering, but I dare not say how near the tidings of our comfort is.
Nay, let us share thy thoughts as thou dost ours.
Be confident to speak, Northumberland. We three are but thyself, and speaking so, thy words are but as thoughts. Therefore be bold.
Then thus, I have from Port La Blanc, a bay in Britain, received intelligence that Harry, Duke of Hereford, Reynold, Lord of Cobham, that late broke from the Duke of Exeter, his brother Archbishop, late of Canterbury, Sir Thomas Erpingham, Sir John Rayston, Sir John Norbury, and Sir Robert Waterton, and Francis Quoint, all these well furnished by the Duke of Bretagne, with 8 tall ships, 3,000 men of war are making hither with all due expedience, and shortly mean to touch our northern shore. Perhaps they had ere this, but that they stay the first departing of the king for Ireland. If then we shake off our slavish yoke, imp out our drooping country's broken wing, redeem from broken pawn the blemished crown, wipe off the dust that hides our scepter's guilt, and make high majesty look like itself, away with me in post to Ravensburg. But if you faint, as fearing to do so, stay and be secret, and myself will go.
To horse urge doubts to them that fear.
Hold out my horse, and I will first be there.
Madam, your majesty is too much sad. You promised when you parted with the king to lay aside self-harming heaviness and entertain a cheerful disposition.
To please the king I did. To please myself I cannot do it. Yet I know no cause why I should welcome such a guest as grief, save bidding farewell to so sweet a guest as my sweet Richard. Yet again methinks some unborn sorrow, ripe in fortune's womb, is coming towards me, and my inward soul with nothing trembles at something it grieves more than with parting from my lord the king.
Each substance of a grief hath 20 shadows, which shows like grief itself, but it is not so. For sorrow's eye, glazed with blinding tears, divides one thing entire to many objects, like perspectives, which rightly gazed upon show nothing but confusion and airy distinguished form. So your sweet majesty, looking array upon your lord's departure, finds shapes of grief more than himself to wail, which looked on as it is naught but shadows of what it is not. Then thrice gracious queen, more than your lord's departure, weep not, more is not, or it be, 'tis with full sorrow's eye, which for things true weep things imaginary.
It may be so, but yet my inward soul persuades me it is otherwise. Howe'er it be, I cannot but be sad, so heavy sad, as though on thinking on no thought, I think, makes me heavy, nothing faint and shrink.
'Tis nothing but conceit, my gracious lady.
'Tis nothing less. Conceit is still derived from some forefather grief. Mine is not so, for nothing hath begot my something grief, or something hath the nothing that I grieve. 'Tis in reversion that I do possess. But what it is, that is not yet known. What I cannot name, 'tis nameless woe, I wot.
Heaven save your majesty, and well met, gentlemen. I hope the king is not yet shipped for Ireland.
Why hopest thou so? 'Tis better hope he is, for his designs crave hast, his hast good hope. When wherefore dost thou hope he is not shipped?
That he, our hope, might have retired his power and driven into despair an enemy's hope, who strongly hath set footing in this land. The banished Bolingbroke repeals himself, and with uplifted arms is safe arrived at Ravensburg.
Now God in heaven forbid.
Oh, madam, 'tis too true, and that is worse. The Lord Northumberland, his young son Henry Percy, the lords of Ross, Beaumont, and Willoughby, with all their powerful friends, are fled to him.
Why have you not proclaimed Northumberland and the rest of the revolted faction traitors?
We have, whereon the Earl of Worcester hath broke his staff, resigned his stewardship, and all the household servants fled with him to Bolingbroke.
So green, thou art the midwife of my woe, and Bolingbroke my sorrows dismal here. Now hath my soul brought forth her prodigy, and I, a gasping new delivered mother, have woe to woe, sorrow to sorrow, joy.
Oh, despair not, madam.
Who shall hinder me? I will despair, and be at enmity with cousining hope. He is a flatterer, a parasite, a keeper back of death, who gently would dissolve the bands of life which false hopes linger in extremity.
Here comes the Duke of York.
With signs of war about his aged neck. Oh, full of careful business are his looks. Uncle, for heaven's sake, speak comfortable words.
Comfort's in heaven, and we are on the earth, where nothing lives but crosses, care, and grief. Your husband, he is gone to save far off, whilst others come to make him lose at home. Here am I left to underprop his land, who, weak with age, cannot support myself. Now comes the sick hour that his surfeit made. Now shall he try his friends that flattered him.
My lord,
Your
son was gone before I came.
He was. Why, so go all which way it will. The nobles, they are fled, the commons, they are cold, and I will fear revolt on Hereford's side. Sirrah, get thee to Plashy, to my sister Gloucester, Bid her send me presently £1,000. Hold, take my ring.
My lord, I had forgot to tell your lordship. Today I came by and called there, but I shall grieve you to report the rest.
What is't, knave?
An hour before I came, the Duchess died.
Heaven for his mercy. What a tide of woes come rushing in on this woeful land at once. I know not what to do. I would to heaven, so my untruth had not provoked him to it, the king had cut off my head with my brothers. What, are there posts dispatched for Ireland? How shall we do for money for these wars? Come, sister, cousin, I would say, pray pardon me. Go, fellow, get thee home. Provide some carts and bring away the armor that is there. Gentlemen, will you muster men? If I know how or which way to order these affairs, thus disorderly thrust into my hands, now believe me, both are my kinsmen, the one's my sovereign, whom both my oath and duty bids defend. The other again is my kinsman, whom the king hath wronged, whom conscience and my kindred bids to right. Well, somewhat we must do. Come, cousin, I'll dispose of you. Gentlemen, go muster up your men, and meet me presently at Berkeley Castle. I should to Pleshy, but time will not permit. All is uneven, and everything is left at 6 and 7.
The wind sits fair for news to go to Ireland, but none returns. For us to levy power proportionable to the enemy, it is impossible.
Besides, our nearness to the king in love is near the hate of those love not the king.
And that's the wavering commons, for their love lies in their purses, and who so empties them by so much fills their hearts with deadly hate, wherein the king stands generally condemned. If judgment lie...
You're Bagot, that should be you.
I'm queen also.
Yeah, but you're also Bagot.
It's the same scene, I think. If judgment lie in them, then so do we, because we have been ever near the king.
Well, I will for refuge straight to Bristol Castle. The Earl of Wiltshire is already there.
Thither will I with you, for little office will the hateful commons perform for us, except like curs to tear us all to pieces. Will you go along with us?
No, I will to Ireland to his majesty. Farewell. If heart's presages be not vain, we three here part, that ne'er shall meet again.
That's as York thrives to beat back Bolingbroke.
Alas, poor Duke. The tasks he undertakes is numbering sands and drinking oceans dry, where one of his side fights thousands will fly.
Farewell at once, for one, forever, for all and ever. But we may never meet again.
I fear me never.
How far is it, my lord, to Berkeley now?
Believe me, noble lord, I am a stranger here in Gloucester. These high, wild hills and rough, uneven ways draws out our miles and makes them wearisome. And yet our fair discourse hath been as sugar, making the hard way sweet and delectable. But bethink me what a weary way from Ravensburg to Cotswold will be found in Ross and Willoughby, wanting your company, which I protest hath very much beguiled the tediousness and process of my travel. But theirs is sweetened with the hope to have the present benefit that I possess, and hope to joy is little less enjoyed than hope enjoyed. By this the weary lord shall make their way seem short, as mine hath done, by sight of what I have, your noble company.
Of much less value is my company than your good words. But who comes here?
It is my son, young Harry Percy, sent from my brother Worcester. Whensoever, Harry, how fares your uncle?
I had thought, my lord, to have learned his health of you.
Why is he not with the queen?
No, my good lord. He had forsook the court, broken his staff of office, and dispersed the household of the king.
What was his reason? He was not so resolved when we last spake together.
Because your lordship was proclaimed traitor. But he, my lord, is gone to Ravensburg to offer service to the Duke of Hereford, and sent me over by Berkeley to discover what power the Duke of York had levied there, then with direction to repair to Ravensburg.
Have you forgot the Duke of Hereford, boy?
No, my good lord, for that is not forgot which ne'er I did remember. To my knowledge, I never in my life did look on him.
Then learn to know him now. This is the Duke.
Oh, my gracious lord, I tender you my service, such as it is, being tender, raw, and young, which elder days shall ripen and confirm to more approved service and desert.
I thank thee, gentle Percy, and be sure I count myself in nothing else so happy as in a soul remembering my good friends. And as my fortune ripens with thy love, it shall be still thy true love's recompense. My heart this covenant makes, my hand thus seals it.
How far is it to Berkeley? And what stir keeps good old York there with his men of war?
There stands the castle by yon tuft of trees, manned with 300 men, as I have heard, and in it are the lords of York, Berkeley, and Seymour. None else of name and noble estimate.
Here come the lords of Rosse and Willoughby, bloody with spurring, fiery red with haste.
Welcome, my lords. I watch your love pursues a banished traitor. All my treasury is yet but unfelt thanks, which more enriched shall be your love and labor's recompense.
Your presence makes us rich, most noble lord.
And far surmounts our labor to attain it.
Evermore thanks the exchequer of the poor, which till my infant fortune comes to years, stands for my bounty. But who comes here?
It is my lord of Berkeley, as I guess.
Oh, we had no Buckley, so
Which is also you, Eleanor. Sorry.
I am also Berkeley. My lord of Hereford, my message is to you.
My lord, my answer is to Lancaster, and I am come to seek that name in England, and I must find that title in your tongue before I make reply to aught you say.
Mistake me not, my lord, 'tis not my meaning to raise one tittle of your honor out. To you, my lord, I come, what lord you will, from the most glorious of this land, the Duke of York, to know what pricks you on to take advantage of the absent time, and fright our native peace with self-born arms.
I shall not need transport my words by you. Here comes his grace in person, my noble uncle.
Show me thy humble heart and not thy knee, whose duty is deceivable and false.
My gracious uncle.
Tut, tut, grace me no grace, nor uncle me. I am no traitor's uncle, and that word, grace, in an ungracious mouth is but profane. Why have these banished and forbidden legs dared once to touch a dust of England's ground? But more than why have they dared to march so many miles upon her peaceful bosom, frighting her pale-faced villages with war and ostentation of despised arms? Comest thou because the anointed king is hence? Why, foolish boy, the king is left behind, and in my loyal bosom lies his power. Were I but now the lord of such hot youth as when brave Gaunt, thy father and myself, rescued the Black Prince, that young Mars of men, from forth the ranks of many thousand French. Oh, then how quickly should this arm of mine, now prisoner to the palsy, chastise thee and minister correction to thy fault.
My gracious uncle, let me know my fault. On what condition stands it, and wherein?
Even in condition of the worst degree, in gross rebellion and detested treason. Thou art a banished man, and here art come before the expiration of thy time in braving arms against thy sovereign.
As I was banished Hereford. But as I come for Lancaster, And noble uncle, I beseech your grace, look on my wrongs with an indifferent eye. You are my father, for methinks in you I see old Gaunt alive. Oh then, my father, will you permit that I shall stand condemned a wandering vagabond, my rights and royalties plucked from my arms perforce and given away to upstart unthrifts? Wherefore was I born? If that my cousin king be king of England, it must be granted I am Duke of Leinster. You have a son, O Merle, my noble kinsman. Had you first died and he been thus trod down, he should have found his uncle Gaunt a father to rouse his wrongs and chase them to the bay. I am denied to sue my livery here, and yet my letters patents give me leave. My father's goods are all distrained and sold, and these and all are all amiss employed. What would you have me do? I am a subject and challenge law. Attorneys are denied me, and therefore personally I lay my claim to my inheritance of free descent.
The noble Duke hath been too much abused.
It stands your grace upon to do him right.
Base men by his endowments are made great.
My lords of England, let me tell you this. I have had feeling of my cousin's wrongs and labored all I could to do him right. But in this kind, to come in braving arms, be his own carver and cut out his way, to find out right with wrongs, it may not be. And you that do abet him in this kind, cherish rebellion, and are rebels all.
The noble Duke hath sworn his coming is but for his own. And for the right of that, we all have strongly sworn to give him aid, and let him ne'er see joy that breaks that oath.
Well, I see the issue of these arms. I cannot mend it, I must needs confess, because my power is weak and all ill left. But if I could, by him that gave me life, I would attach you all and make you stoop under the sovereign mercy of the king. But since I cannot, be it known to you, I do remain as neuter. So fare you well, unless you please to enter the castle and there repose you for this night.
An offer, uncle, that we will accept, but we must win your grace to go with us to Bristow Castle, which they say is held by Bushy, Bagot, and their accomplices, the caterpillars of the Commonwealth, which I have sworn to weed and pluck away.
I will go with you, but yet I'll pause, for I am loath to break our country's laws. Nor friends nor foes to me welcome you are. Things past redress are now with me past care.
My lord of Salisbury, we have stayed 10 days and hardly kept our countrymen together, and yet we hear no tidings from the king. Therefore we will disperse ourselves. Farewell.
Stay yet another day, thou trusty Welchman. The king reposeth all his confidence in thee.
'Tis thought the king is dead. We will not stay. The bay trees in our country all are withered. The meteors fright the mixed stars of heaven. The pale-faced moon looks bloody on the earth, and lean-looked prophets whisper fearful change. Rich men look sad, and ruffians dance and leap, the one to fear to lose what they enjoy, the other to enjoy by rage and war. These signs forerun the death of kings. Farewell, our countrymen are gone and fled, as well assured Richard their king is dead.
Ah, Richard, with eyes of heavy mind, I see thy glory like a shooting star fall to the earth from the firmament. Thy sunsets weeping in the lowly west, witnessing storms to come, woe and unrest. Thy friends are fled to wait upon thy foes, and crossly to thy good all fortune goes.
Bring forth these men, bushy and green. I will not vex your souls, since presently your souls must part your bodies, with too much urging your pernicious lives. If it were no charity, yet to wash your blood from off my hands here in the view of men, I will unfold some causes of your deaths. You have misled a prince, a royal king, a happy gentleman in blood and lineaments, by you, unhappied and disfigured queen. You have in manner with your sinful hours made a divorce betwixt his queen and him, broke the possession of a royal bed, and stained the beauty of a fair queen's cheeks with tears drawn from her eyes with your foul wrongs. Myself a prince by fortune of my birth, near to the king in blood and near in love, till you did make him misinterpret me, have stooped my neck under your injuries, and sighed my English breath foreign clouds, eating the bitter bread of banishment, while you have fed upon my seigneuries, disparked my parks, and felled my forest woods, from mine own windows torn my household coat, raised out my impress, leaving me no sign save men's opinions and my living blood, to show the world I am a gentleman. This and much more than twice all this, condemns you to the death. See them delivered over to execution in the hand of death.
More welcome is the stroke of death to me than Bolingbroke to England.
My comfort is that heaven will take our souls and plague injustice with the pains of hell.
My lord Northumberland, see them dispatched. Uncle?
Page?
61.
Well, my lord Bolingbroke, uncle, you say the queen is at your house. We didn't hear the rest of that. Could you repeat it?
Oh, I must have, yeah. Maybe my computer again, okay. For heaven's sake, fairly let her be entreated. Tell her I send to her my kind commends. Take special care my greetings be delivered.
A gentleman of mine I have dispatched with letters of your love to her at large.
Thanks, gentle uncle. Come, lords, away, to fight with Glendower and his complices, a while to work and after holiday.
Comes flourish in colors, enter Richard, O'Merle, Carlisle, and soldiers.
Barcliffe Castle, call you this at hand?
Yea, my lord, how Brookshire graced the air after your late tossing on the breaking seas.
Needs must I like it well. I weep for joy to stand upon my kingdom once again. Dear earth, I do salute thee with my hand, though rebels wound thee with their horses' hooves, as a long-parted mother with her child plays fondly with her tears and smiles in meeting. So weeping, smiling, greet I thee, my earth, and do thee favor with my royal hands. Feed not thy sovereign's foe, my gentle earth, nor with thy sweets comfort this ravenous sense. But let thy spiders that suck up thy venom and heavy-gated toadies lie their way, doing annoyance to the treacherous feet which with usurping steps do trample thee. Yield stinging nettles to mine enemies. And when they from thy bosom pluck a flower, guard it, I prithee, with a lurking adder, whose double tongue may with a mortal touch throw death upon thy sovereign's enemies. Mock not my senseless conjuration, lords. This earth shall have feeling, and these stones prove armed soldiers, ere her native king shall falter under foul rebellious arms.
Fear not, my lord. That power that made you king has power to keep you king in spite of all.
He means, my lord, that we are too remiss, whilst Bolingbroke, through our security, grows strong and great in substance and in friends.
This comfortable cousin, knowest thou not that when the searching eye of heaven is hid behind the globe that lights the lower world, then thieves and robbers range abroad unseen, in murders and in outrage bloody here. But when from under this terrestrial ball he fires the proud tops of eastern pines and darts his lightning through every guilty hole, then murders, treasons, and detested sins, the cloak of night being plucked from their backs, stand bare and naked, trembling at themselves. So when this thief, this traitor Bolingbroke, who all this while hath reveled in the night, shall see us rising in our throne, the east, his treasons will sit blushing on his face, not able to endure the sight of day, but self-affrighted tremble at his sins. Not all the water in the rough rude sea can wash the balm from an anointed king. The breath of worldly men cannot depose the deputy elected by the Lord. For every man that Bolingbroke hath pressed to lift rude steel against our golden crown, heaven for his Richard hath in heavenly pay a glorious angel. Then if angels fight, weak men must fall, for heaven still guards the night. Welcome, my lord. How far off lies your power?
No near nor further off, my gracious lord, than this weak army. Discomfort guides my tongue and bids me speak of nothing but despair. One day too late, I fear, my noble lord, hath clouded all thy happy days on earth. Oh, call back yesterday, bid time return, and thou shalt have 12,000 fighting men. Today, unhappy day too late, overthrows thy joys, friends, fortune, and thy state. For all the Welshmen, hearing thou wert dead, are gone to Bolingbroke, dispersed and fled.
Comfort, my liege. Why looks your grace so pale?
But now the blood of 20,000 men did triumph in my face, and they are fled. Until so much blood thither come again, have I not reason to look pale and dead? All souls that will be safe, fly from my side, for time hath set a blot upon my pride.
Comfort, my liege. Remember who you are.
I had forgot myself. Am I not king? Awake, thou sluggard majesty, thou sleepest. Is not the king's name 40,000 names? Arm my name. A puny subject strikes at thy great glory. Look not to the ground, you favorites of a king. Are we not high? High be our thoughts. I know my uncle York hath power enough to serve our turn. But who comes here?
You have a scroop?
Interscroop, that should be you, Kitty.
Me too? Oh, it doesn't say this, but I guess I'll do it.
No, it's supposed to be Kitty, actually.
More health and happiness betide my liege than can my care-tuned tongue deliver him.
Mine ear is open, and my heart prepared. The worst is worldly loss thou canst unfold. Say, is my kingdom lost? What was my care, and what loss is it to be rid of care? Strives Bolingbroke to be as great as we, greater he shall not be. If he serve God, we'll serve him too, and be his fellow so. Revolt our subjects? That we cannot mend, they break their faith to God as well as us. Cry, woe, destruction, ruin, loss, decay. The worst is death, and death will have his day.
Glad am I that your highness is so armed to bear the tidings of calamity. Like an unseasonable stormy day, which make the silver rivers drown their shores, as if the world were all dissolved to tears. So high above his limits swells the rage of Bolingbroke, covering your fearful land with hard, bright steel, and hearts harder than steel. White bears have armed their thin and hairless scalps against thy majesty, and boys with women's voices strive to speak big and clap their female joints in stiff, unwieldy arms. Against thy crown, thy very beadsmen learn to bend their bows of double fatal hue. Against thy state, yea, distaff women manage rusty bills. Against thy seat, both young and old rebel, and all goes worse than I have power to tell.
Oh, too well, thou tellest a tale so ill. Where is the Earl of Wiltshire? Where is Bagot? What has become of Bushy? Where is Green? That they have let the dangerous enemy measure our confines with such peaceful steps. If we prevail, their heads will pay for it. I warrant they have made peace with Bolingbroke.
Peace have they made with him indeed, my lord.
Oh, villains, vipers, damned without redemption, dogs, easily won to fawn on any man, snakes in my heart blood warmed that sting my heart, 3 Judases, each one thrice worse than Judas. Would they make peace? Terrible hell, make war upon their spotted souls for this offense.
Sweet love, I see, changing his property, turns to the sourest and most deadly hate. Again, uncurse their souls. Their peace is made with heads and not with hands. Those whom you curse have felt the worst of death's destroying hand, and lie full low, graved in the hollow ground.
Is Bushy Green and the Earl of Wiltshire dead?
Yea, all of them in Bristol lost their heads.
Where's the Duke my father with his power?
No matter where. Of comfort, no man speak. Let's talk of graves, of worms and epitaphs, make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow upon the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors and talk of wills. And yet not so, for what can we bequeath save our deposed bodies to the ground? Our lands, our lives, and all our Bolingbroke's. And nothing can we call our own but death. And that small model of the barren earth which serves as paste to cover our bones. Upon their spotted souls for this offense.
Go back to the bottom of 68, and heavens let us sit upon the ground.
For heaven's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. Or within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death at his court. And there the antique sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh with walls about our life were brass impregnable, comes at the last with a little pin, bores through with a little pin bores through his castle walls and his farewell king. Cover your heads and mock not flesh and blood with solemn reverence. Throw away respect, tradition, form, and ceremonious duty, for your but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, feel want, taste grief, need friends. Subjected thus, how can you say to me, I am king? But presently, prevent the waves to wail.
No, that should be Carlisle. Yeah,
Yep. My lord, wise when ne'er wail their present woes, but presently prevent the ways to wail. To fear the foe, since fear oppressive strength gives in your weakness strength unto your foe. Fear and be slain, no worse can come to sight, and fight and die is death, destroying death, where fearing, dying, pays death's servile breath.
My father hath a power, inquire of him, and learn to make a body of a limb.
Thou chidest me well. Proud Bolingbroke, I come to change blows with thee. For our day of doom, this agur fits of fear is overblown. An easy task it is to win our own. Say, Scroop, where lies our uncle with his power? Speak sweetly, man, although thy looks be sour.
Men judge by the complexion of the sky, the state and inclination of the day. So may you by my dull and heavy eye. My tongue hath but a heavier tale to say. I play the torturer by small and small to lengthen out the worst that must be spoken. Your Uncle York is joined with Bolingbroke, and all your northern castles yielded up, and all your southern gentlemen in arms upon his faction.
Thou hast said enough. Beshrew thee, cousin, which didst lead me forth of that sweet way I was in to despair. What say you now? What comfort have we now? By heaven, I'll hate him everlastingly that bids me be of comfort any more. Go to Flint Castle, and there I'll pine away, a king, woe's slave, shall kingly woe obey. The power I have discharge, and let him go to heir the land that hath some hope to grow, for I have none. Let no man speak again to alter this, for counsel is but vain.
My liege, one word.
He does me double wrong that wounds me with the flatteries of his tongue. Discharge my followers, let them hence away from Richard's night to Bolingbroke's fair day.
I just need a moment to get to that part in the script.
72.
Okay. Almost there. Okay. So that by this intelligence we learn the Welshmen are dispersed and Salisbury is gone to meet the king, who lately landed with some few private friends upon this coast.
The news is very fair and good, my lord. Richard, not far from hence, hath hid his head.
It would beseem thee, Lord Northumberland, to say King Richard. Alack, the heavy day when such a sacred king should hide his head.
Your grace mistakes, only to be brief left I his title out.
The time hath been, would you have been so brief with him, he would have been so brief with you, to shorten you for taking so the head, your whole head's length.
Mistake not, uncle, farther than you should.
Take not, good cousin, farther than you should, lest you mistake the heavens are o'er your head.
I know it, uncle, and oppose not myself against their will, but who comes here? Welcome, Harry. What will this castle yield?
The castle royally is manned, my lord, against thy entrance.
Royally, why it contains no king.
Yes, my good lord, it doth contain a king. King Richard lies within the limits of yon lime and stone, and with him the Lord Almerle, Lord Salisbury, Sir Stephen Scrope, besides a clergyman of holy reverence whom I cannot learn.
Oh, more like it is the Bishop of Carlisle.
Noble lord, go to the rude ribs of that ancient castle, through brazen trumpets send the breath of Parl into his ruined ears, and thus deliver Henry Bolingbroke upon his knees doth kiss King Richard's hand, and sends allegiance and true faith of heart to his royal person, hither come even at his feet to lay my arms and power, provided that my banishments repealed, and lands restored again be freely granted. If not, I'll use the advantage of my power, and lay the summer's dust with showers of blood rained from the wounds of slaughtered Englishmen, the which how far off from the mind of Bolingbroke it is, such crimson tempest should bedrench the fresh green lap of fair King Richard's land. My stooping duty tenderly shall show. Oh, signify as much while here we march upon the glassy carpet of this plain. Let's march without the noise of threatening drum, that from this castle's tattered battlements our fair appointments may be well perused. Methinks King Richard and myself should meet with no less terror than the elements of fire and water, when their thundering smoke a meeting tears the cloudy cheeks of heaven. Be he the fire, I'll be the yielding water. The rage be his, while on the earth I reign, my waters on the earth and not on him. March on and mark King Richard how he looks. See, yeah. See, King Richard doth himself appear, as doth the blushing discontented sun from out the fiery portal of the east, when he perceives the envious clouds are bent to dim his glory and to stain the tract of his bright passage to the Occidents.
Yet looks he like a king. Behold his eye, as bright as is the eagle's, lightens forth controlling majesty. Alack, alack for woe, that any harm should stain so fair a show.
We are amazed. And thus long have we stood to watch the fearful bending of thy knee, because we thought ourself thy lawful king. And if we be, how dare thy joints forget to pay their awful duty to our presence? If we be not, show us the hand of God that has dismissed us from our stewardship. For well we know, no hand of blood and bone can grip the sacred handle of our scepter unless he do profane, steal, or usurp. And though you think that all as you have done have torn soul, turning them, and God omnipotent is mustrung in his clouds on our behalf, armies of pestilence, and they shall strike your children, let unborn and unbegot, that lift your vassal hands against my head and threat the glory of my precious crown. Tell Bolingbroke, for yon methinks he is, that every stride he makes upon my land is dangerous treason. He is come to ope the purple testament of bleeding war, but ere the crown he looks for live in peace, 10,000 bloody crowns of mothers' sons shall ill become the flower of England's face, change the complexion of her maid pale peace to scarlet indignation, and bedew her pastor's grass with faithful English blood.
The King of Heaven forbid, our Lord the King should so with civil and uncivil arms be rushed upon. Thy thrice noble cousin, Harry Bolingbroke, doth humbly kiss thy hand, and by the honorable tomb he swears that stands upon your royal grandsire's bones, and by the royalties of both your bloods, currents that spring from one most gracious head, and by the brary hand of warlike Gaunt, and by the worth and honor of himself, comprising all that may be sworn or said, his coming hither hath no further scope than for his lineal royalties, and to beg enfranchisement immediate on his knees, which on thy royal party granted once, his glittering arms he will commend to rest, his barbed steeds to stables, and his heart to faithful service of your majesty. This swears he, as he is a prince, is just, and as I am a gentleman, I credit him.
Northumberland, say thus: the king returns. His noble cousin is right welcome hither, and all the number of his fair demands shall be accomplished without contradiction. With all the gracious utterance thou hast, speak to his gentle hearing kind commands. We do debase ourselves, cousin, do we not, to look so poorly and to speak so fair? Shall we call back Northumberland and send defiance to the traitor and so die?
No, good my lord, let's fight with gentle words, till time lend friends, and friends their helpful swords.
Oh God, that ere this tongue of mine that laid the sentence of dread banishment on yon proud man should take it off again with words of sooth. Oh, that I were as great as my grief, or lesser than my name, or that I could forget what I have been and not remember what I must be now. Swell'st thou pride, half? I'll give thee scope to beat, since foes have scope to beat both thee and me.
Northumberland comes back from Bolingbroke.
What must the king do now? Must he submit? The king shall do it. Must he be deposed? The king shall be contented. Must he loose the name of king? Oh gods, let it go. I'll give my jewels for a set of beads, my gorgeous palace for hermitage, my gay apparel for an almsman's gown, my figured goblets for a dish of wood, my scepter for a palmer's walking staff, my subjects for a pair of carved saints, and my large kingdom for a little grave, a little grave, an obscure grave. Or I'll be buried in the king's highway, some way of common trade, where subjects' feet may hourly trample on their sovereign's head. For on my heart they tread now whilst I live, and buried once, why not upon my head? Armel, thou weepest, my tender-hearted cousin. We'll make foul weather with despised tears. Our sighs and they shall lodge in the summer corn and make a death in this revolting land. Or shall we play the wantons with our woes and make some pretty match with shedding tears, and thus to drop them still upon one place till they have fretted us a pair of graves within the earth, and therein laid there lies true kinsmen, dig their graves with weeping eyes? Would not this ill do well? Well, I see. I talk but idly, and you mock me, most mighty prince, my lord Northumberland. What says King Bolingbroke? Will his majesty give Richard leave to live till Richard die? You make a leg, and Bolingbroke says I.
My lord, in the base court he doth attend to speak with you. May it please you to come down.
Down I come like blistering fight and wanting the manage of unruly jades. In the base court where kings grow base to come at traitors' calls and do them grace. In the base court come down court, down king, for night owls' shrieks where melting locks should sing.
What says his majesty?
Sorrow and grief of heart makes him speak fondly like a frantic man, yet he is come.
Stand all apart and show fair duty to his majesty, my gracious lord.
Fair cousin, you debase your princely need to make the base earth proud with kissing it. Me rather had my heart might feel your love than my unpleased eye see your courtesy. Oh, cousin, up! Your heart is up, I know, thus high at least, although your king be low.
My gracious lord, I come but for mine own.
Your own is yours, and I am yours and all.
So far be mine, my most redoubted lord, as my true service shall deserve your love.
Well, you deserved. They well deserve to have that know the strongest and surest way to get. Uncle, give me your hand. Nay, dry your eyes. Tears show their love, but want their remedies. Cousin, I am too young to be your father, though you are old enough to be my heir. What you will have, I'll give, and willing to. For do we must what force will have us do. Set on towards London, cousin, is it so?
Yea, my good lord.
Then I must not say no.
Oh.
What sport shall we devise here in this garden to drive away the heavy thought of care?
Oh, madam, we'll play at bowls.
'Twill make me think the world is full of rubs, and that my fortune runs against the bias.
Madam will dance.
My legs can keep no measure in delight, when my poor heart no measure keeps in grief. Therefore no dancing, girls, some other sport.
Madam will tell it tales.
Of sorrow or of grief?
Of either, madam.
Of neither, girl. For if of joy, being altogether wanting, it doth remember me the more of sorrow. Or if of grief, being altogether had, it adds more sorrow to my want of joy. For what I have I need not to repeat. For what I want, it boots not to complain.
Madam, I'll sing.
'Tis well that thou hast cause, but thou shouldst please me better, wouldst thou weep.
I could weep, madam. Would it do you good?
And I could sing, would weeping do me good, and never borrow any tear of thee. But stay, here comes the gardeners. Let's step into the shadow of these trees. My wretchedness unto a row of pines, they'll talk of state, for everyone doth so against a change. Woe is forerun with woe.
Go bind thou up yon dangling apricocks, which, like unruly children, make their sire stoop with oppression of their prodigal weight. Give some supportance to the bending twigs. Go thou, and like an executioner, cut off the heads of too fast-growing sprays that look too lofty in our commonwealth. All must be even in our government. You thus employed, I will go root away the noisome weeds that without profit suck the soil's fertility from wholesome flowers.
Why should we, in the compass of a pale, keep law and form and due proportion, showing as in a model our firm estate, when our sea-walled garden, the whole land is full of weeds, her fairest flowers choked up, her fruit trees all unpruned, her hedges ruined, her knots disordered, and her wholesome herbs swarming with caterpillars.
Hold thy peace. He that hath suffered this disordered spring hath now himself met with the fall of leaf. The weeds that his broad-spreading leaves did shelter, that seemed in eating him to hold him up, are pulled up, root and all, by Bolingbroke. I mean the Earl of Wiltshire, bushy, green.
What, are they dead?
They are. And Bolingbroke has seized the wasteful king. Oh, what pity is it that he hath not so trimmed and dressed his land as we this garden at time of year, and wound the bark, the skin of our fruit trees, lest being over proud with sap and blood, with too much richness, it confound itself. Had he done so, to great and growing men they might have lived to bear, and he to taste their fruits of duty. Superfluous branches we lop away, that bearing boughs may live. Had he done so, himself had borne the crown, which waste and idle hours hath quite thrown down.
What, think you the king shall be deposed?
Depressed he is already, and deposed. 'Tis doubted he will be. Letters came last night to a dear friend of the Duke of York's, that tell black tidings.
Oh, I am pressed to death through wanting of speaking. Thou old Adam's likeness, set to dress this garden, how dares thy harsh rude tongue sound this unpleasing news? What, Eve? What serpent hath suggested thee to make a second fall of cursed man? Why dost thou say King Richard is deposed? Darest thou little better thing than earth divine his downfall? Say where, when, and how canst thou by this ill tidings? Speak, thou wretch.
Pardon me, madam, little joy have I to breathe these news. Yet what I say is true. King Richard, he is in the mighty hold of Bolingbroke. Their fortunes both are weighed in your lord's scales. Your lord's scale is nothing but himself and some few vanities that make him light. But in the balance of great Bolingbroke, besides himself are all the English peers, and with that odds he weighs King Richard down. Post you to London, and you'll find it so. I speak no more than every one doth know.
Nimble mischance that art so light of foot, doth not thy embassage belong to me? And am I last that knows it? O thou think'st to serve me last, that I may longest keep thy sorrow in my breast. Come, ladies, go to meet at London, London's king in woe. What was I born to this, that my sad look should grace the triumph of great Bolingbroke? Gardener, for telling me this news of woe, I would the plants thou grasp'st may never grow.
Poor queen, so that thy state might be no worse, I would my skill were subject to thy curse. Here did she drop a tear. Here in this place I'll set a bank of rue, sour herb of grace, rue, even for Ruth. Here shortly shall be seen in the remembrance of a weeping queen.
All right, and here we will take a brief pause. It's 3:05 almost, but we'll be back at 3:10 for the rest of the play. Thank you all very much. I know it's confusing. We have so many different characters in this, and only 8 actors. So I did jump in a few times, but just to want to keep it moving along. But thank you all. It is really a lovely play, and Steve and everybody doing a great job. Thank you so much. Just a little bit of sort of context. There's actually another play. It's an anonymous play called Thomas of Woodstock, which is often referred to as King Richard Part 1, which deals with Thomas of Woodstock, who was another of Edward's sons, who was killed largely by Richard and Mowbray, and actually we did a reading of it last year, which is on Zoom, which our dear departed friend Stephen Brown had put together. So it is on YouTube if you would like to look that up and find it. It's generally not thought of as being by Shakespeare. Some people say it is, but I can't really credit it for that. But it is an interesting play, and it is interesting to sort of know the history of that. And also the thing of it's like, okay, we have the person who we soon be knowing as King Henry IV is Henry Bolingbroke, Duke of Lancaster. Well, I mean, now Duke of Lancaster, since his father, John of Gaunt, was Duke of Lancaster and is dead, but he was also Harry of Hereford and various other titles. And as O'Merle, who's Duke of O'Merle, who is also he is also the Edward of Norwich, Earl of Rutland as well. And so you'll find out more about that, because for supporting Richard, he sort of loses his dukedom and is just demoted just to an earldom. So there's that. And yeah. So, and also I think there's a rather interesting sort of historical context in terms of the putting on of this play, in that the Earl of Essex, when he rather unsuccessfully tried a coup to take over from Queen Elizabeth, he paid Shakespeare's company to put on a presentation of Richard II and in the hopes that the play would rouse everybody up to, yes, we've got to get rid of this weak sovereign and depose Queen Elizabeth. But I think that one of the things you see about this is that because Shakespeare does do things so even-handedly that you don't really come out like, yay, let's go Hereford, Lancaster, you know. So it wasn't really successful, and it did get them in a bit of trouble where they were questioned for a bit, and they were like, hey, this guy, this lord paid us a lot of money to do this play we haven't done for a while, so we did it. We had no idea. We're not political. So the day came off all right. Essex, however, lost his head. So, Steve, do you have something you want to add, or?
Oh, wow. No, we're just going to say it happens. He lost his head. It's the way of the world.
Yeah, that's right. And it is. It's sort of interesting. I mean, that we have that even these things about English history, you can still have people who still think they should be king or president or whatever, trying to claim that they're being unfairly treated. But anyways.
Did anyone at that time there's a lot of talk about anointed kings, the stewards of God, and blah blah blah. Did anybody actually believe that?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people did. That's what kept the kings in power. And it wasn't until, really, I mean, afterwards that when the Puritans came in with Cromwell, who finally got rid of James's son, I mean, that we then had the sort of thing where they didn't have a king for like 18 years, and they also shut down the theaters. But then afterwards, people were like, nah, these Puritans aren't much fun. And so after Cromwell died and tried to make his son go after him, it didn't work out. And they brought back the kings. Then you got Charles II.
But didn't they ever notice that the king was whoever could hold their kingship? And if they couldn't, then somebody else took over by strength?
Well, but it's also, I mean, well, anyways, we should resume because we've got stuff to do, and we can talk about that a little later. But I mean, I think part of the whole story that Shakespeare is telling here is that because of what happens with King Richard, it then, I mean, Bolingbroke sort of suffers from it. We then have the triumphant Henry V, but then Henry VI, him being deposed is shown as being a sort of a result of the fact that they had stolen the crown from Richard, even though they were all from the sons of Edward.
Do we have anyone in the audience?
Yes, we do. We do have a person in the audience on Zoom, and I don't know who may be watching on YouTube now or later, but we did say we'd be back, and it's just 5 minutes. So let us begin again with Actus. Is Bolingbroke here? Yes, and everyone and I will be taking on Fitzwater so that Clinton doesn't have to talk too much to himself for that. And so I just think we need to make sure that our Duke of Hereford, Lancaster, and soon to be Henry IV is here. Ken, are you here? Paging the king, the new king to be. Paging Bolingbroke.
I'm talking to myself, will I?
What?
I'm Northumberland, and I'm Percy. I won't be talking to myself, will I?
I'm that Percy.
Yeah, you're Percy, Harry Percy Hotspur. Percy is Harry Percy, who's your son, who's Clinton. You're Northumberland. Your name is also Henry Percy, but you are the Earl of Northumberland, and so yours is the North thing. So anyways, Actus Quartus Sina Prima, enters to the Parliament, Bolingbroke, Earl. What, do you need to get up to the page?
I just on my place. Page 87, is it?
Yes, it is page 87. Page 87.
Hello?
Yeah, page 87. Can you hear us?
Just a moment.
You're going in and out. Okay, just try to get up to page 87. Are you up to page 87?
I'm almost there.
Okay.
Really able to speak clearly.
55.
Yeah, well, sometimes we have some issues where things go in and out.
71.
Okay. And so,
Can you hear me all right?
yeah, we can hear you all right. It's been going in a little bit, but we can hear you now. Are you up to 87?
I'm right here. I'm going to
Okay.
begin.
All right, I'll
Paul
just do.
Baggett.
Baggett. Who's Baggett?
Now, Baggett, freely
Here.
speak thy mind.
I'm here.
What thou dost know of noble
You
Gloucester's
have
death,
call for.
who wrought it with the king, and who performed the bloody office of his timeless end.
Then set before my face the Lord O'Merle.
Cousin, stand forth and look upon that man.
My Lord O'Merle, I know your daring tongue scorns to unsay what it hath once delivered. In that dead time, when Gloucester's death was plotted, I heard you say, is not my arm of length that stretcheth from the restful English court as far as Calais to my uncle's head. Amongst much other talk, that very time I heard you say that you had rather refused the offer of 100,000 crowns than Bolingbroke's return to England, adding withal how blessed this land would be in this your cousin's death.
Princes and noble lords, what answer shall I make to this base man? Shall I so much dishonor my fair stars, or on equal terms to give him chastisement? Either I must, or have mine honor soiled with the attainder of his slanderous lips. There is my gage, the manual seal of death that marks thee out for hell. Thou liest, and wilt maintain what thou hast said is false. In thy heart blood thou being all too base to stain the temper of my knightly sword.
Baggett, forbear, thou shalt not take it up.
Excepting one, I would he were the best in all this presence that hath moved me so.
If that thy valor stand unsympathized, there is my gage, O Merle, engaged to thine, by that fair sun that shows me where thou standest. I heard thee say, and vauntingly thou spakest, that thou wert cause of noble Gloucester's death. If thou deniest, 20 times thou liest, and I will turn thy falsehood to thy heart, where it was forged with my rapier's point.
Thou darest not, coward, live to see the day.
Now by my soul I would it were this hour.
It's water, thou art damned to hell for this. Emerald, thou liest. His honor is as true in this appeal as thou art all unjust. And that thou art so, there I throw my gage to prove it on thee to the extremest point of mortal breathing. Seize it if thou darest. And if I do not, may my hands rot off and never brandish more revengeful steel over the glittering helmet of my foe.
Surrey.
Oh, my Lord Fitzwater, I do remember well the very time, O'Merle, and you did talk.
My lord, 'tis very true. You were in presence then, and you can witness with me. This is true.
As false by heaven as heaven itself is true.
Surrey, thou liest.
Oh, dishonorable boy, that lie shall lie so heavy on my sword that it shall render vengeance and revenge, till thou, the lie giver, and that lie do lie in earth as quiet as thy father's skull. In proof whereof there is mine honor's poem. Engage it to the trial if thou darest.
How fondly dost thou spur a forward horse! If I dare eat or drink or breathe or live, I dare meet Surrey in a wilderness and spit upon him, whilst I say he lies, and lies, and lies. There is my bond of faith to thee, to my strong correction, as I intend to thrive in this new world. O'Merle is guilty of my true appeal. Besides, I heard the banished Norfolk say that thou, O'Merle, didst send 2 of thy men to execute the noble Duke at Calais.
Some honest Christian trust me with a gage that Norfolk lies. Here do I throw down this, if he may be repealed to try his honor.
These differences shall all rest under gage till Norfolk be repealed. Repealed he shall be, and though mine enemy restored again to all his lands and seigniories, when he's returned against O'Merle, we will enforce his trial.
That honourable day shall ne'er be seen. Many a time hath banished Norfolk, fought for Jesu Christ in glorious Christian field, streaming the ensign of the Christian cross against black pagans, Turks, and Saracens, and toiled with works of war, retired himself to Italy, and there at Venice gave his body to that pleasant country's earth, and his pure soul unto his captain Christ, under whose colours he had fought so long.
Why, Bishop, is Norfolk dead?
As sure as I live, my lord.
Sweet peace conduct his sweet soul to the bosom of good old Abraham. Lords appealants, your differences shall all rest under gage, till we assign you to your days of trial.
Great Duke of Lancaster, I come to thee from plume-plucked Richard, who with willing soul adopts the heir, and his high sceptre yields to the possession of thy royal hand. Ascend his throne, descending now from him, and long live Henry, of that name the fourth.
In God's name I'll ascend the regal throne.
Mary, heaven forbid! Worst in this royal presence may I speak, yet best beseeming me to speak the truth. Would God that any in this noble presence were enough noble to be upright judge of noble Richard. Then true nobleness would learn him forbearance from so foul a wrong. What subject can give sentence on his king? And who sits here that is not Richard's subject? Thieves are not judged, but they are by to hear, though apparent guilt be seen in them. And shall the figure of God's majesty, his captain, steward, deputy elect, anointed, crowned, planted many years, be judged by subject and inferior breath, and he himself not present? Oh, forbid it, God, that in a Christian climate souls refined should show so heinous, black, obscene a deed. I speak to subjects, and a subject speaks, stirred up by heaven, thus boldly for his king. My Lord Hereford there, whom you call king, is a foul traitor to proud Hereford's king. And if you crown him, let me prophesy, the blood of English shall manure the ground, and future ages groan for his foul act. Peace shall go sleep with Turks and infidels, and in this seat of peace tumultuous wars shall kin with kin and kind with kind confound. Disorder, horror, fear, and mutiny shall here inhabit, and this land be called the field of Golgotha, and dead men's skulls. Oh, if you rear this house against this house, it will the woefulest division prove that ever fell upon this cursed earth. Prevent it, resist it, and let it not be so, lest child's children cry against you woe.
Well, have you argued, sir? And for your pains, capital treason, we arrest you here. My Lord of Westminster, be it your charge to keep him safely till his day of trial. May it please you, lords, to grant the common suit.
Fetch the Richard, that in common view he may surrender, so we shall proceed without suspicion.
I will be his conduct.
Lords, you that here are under our arrest, procure your sureties for your days of answer. Little are we beholding to your love, and little looked for at your helping hands.
Alack! Why am I sent for to a king before I have shook off the regal thoughts wherewith I reigned? I hardly yet have learned to insinuate, flatter, bow, and bend my knee. Give sorrow leave a while to tutor me to this submission. Yet well I remember the favors of these men. Were they not mine? Did they not sometime cry, all hail to me? So Judas did to Christ. But he in 12 found truth in all but one. I in 12,000, none. God save the King. Will no man say amen? And by both priest and clerk? Well then, amen. God save the King, although I be not he, and yet, amen, if heaven do think in me. To do what service am I sent for hither?
To do that office of thine own goodwill, which tired majesty did make thee offer, the resignation of thy state and crown to Henry Bolingbroke.
Give me the crown. Here, cousin, seize the crown. Here, cousin, on this side my hand, on that side thine. Now is this golden crown like a deep well that owes two buckets, filling one another, the emptier ever dancing in the air, the other down, unseen and full of water. That bucket down, full of tears am I, drinking my griefs, while you mountst up on high.
I thought you had been willing to resign.
My crown I am, but still my griefs are mine. You may my glories and my state depose, but not my griefs. Still I am king of those.
Part of your cares you give me with your crown.
Your cares set up. Do not pluck my cares down. My care is loss of care by old care done. Your care is gain of care by new care won. The cares I give I have, though given away. They tend the crown. Still with me they stay.
Are you contented to resign the crown?
Aye, no, no, for I must nothing be, therefore no, no, for I resign to thee. Now mark me how I do unfold myself. I give this heavy weight from off my head, and this unwieldy scepter from my hand, the pride of kingly sway from my heart. With mine own tears I wash away my balm. With mine own hands I give away my crown. With mine own tongue deny my sacred state. With mine own breath release all duteous loyalties, oaths of pomp and majesty I do forswear. My manners, rents, revenues I forego. My acts, decrees, and statutes I deny. God pardon all oaths that are broke to me. God keep all vows unbroke are made to thee. Make me that nothing have, with nothing so grieved. And thou with all pleased, thou hast all achieved. Long may thou live in Richard's seat to sit, and soon lie Richard in earthly pit. God save King Henry, unkinged Richard says, and send him many of sunshine days. What more remains?
No more, but that you read these accusations and these grievous crimes committed by your person and your followers against the state and profit of this land, that by confessing them the souls of men may deem that you are worthily deposed.
Must I do so? And must I ravel out my weaved up follies? Gentle Northumberland, if thy offences are upon Richard, would it not shame thee in so fair a troop to read a lecture of them? If thou wouldst, there shouldst thou find one heinous article containing the deposing of a king, and cracking the strong warrant of an oath, marked with a blot, damned in the book of heaven. Nay, all of you that stand and look upon me, whilst that my wretchedness doth bait myself, though some of you with Pilate wash your hands, showing an undue pity, yet you Pilates have here delivered me to my sour cross, and water cannot wash away your sin.
My lord, dispatch, read o'er these articles.
My eyes are full of tears, I cannot see. And yet salt water blinds them not so much, but they can see a sort of traitors here. Nay, if I turn mine eyes upon myself, I find myself a traitor with the rest. For I have given here my soul's content, undecked the pompous body of a king, made glory base, a sovereignty, a slave, proud majesty, a subject, state, a peasant.
My lord.
No lord of thine, thou heart-insulting man. No man's lord. I have no name, no title. No, not that name that was given me at the front, but 'tis usurped. Alack the heavy day that I have worn so many winters out, and know not now what name to call myself. Oh, that I were a mockery. King of snow, standing before the sun of Bolingbroke to melt myself away in water drops. Good king, great king, and yet not greatly good, and if my word be sterling yet in England, let it command a mirror hither straight, that I might show what a face I have, since it is bankrupted majesty.
Go some of you and fetch a looking glass.
Read o'er this paper while the glass doth come.
Fiend, thou torments me, ere I come to hell.
Urge it no more, my lord Northumberland.
The commons will not then be satisfied.
They shall be satisfied. I'll read enough, when I do see the very book indeed where all my sins are writ, and that's myself. Give me that glass, and therein will I read no deeper wrinkles yet. Hath sorrow struck so many blows upon this face of mine, and made no deeper wounds? Oh, flattering glass, like to my fellows in prosperity, thou dost beguile me. Was this face the face that like the sun did make beholders wink? Is this the face which faced so many follies that was at last outfaced by Bolingbroke? A brittle glory shineth in his face. As brittle as the glory is the face, for there it is, cracked in 100 shivers. Hark, silent king, the moral of this sport. How soon my sorrow hath destroyed my face.
The shadow of your sorrow hath destroyed the shadow of your face.
Say that again. The shadow of my sorrow. How, let's see, 'tis very true. My grief lies all within. And these external manner of laments are merely shadows to the unseen grief that swells with silence in the tortured soul. There lies the substance. And I thank thee, King, for thy great bounty, that not only givest me cause to wail, but teaches me the wail how to lament the cause. I'll beg one boon, and then be gone, and trouble you no more. Shall I obtain it?
Name it, fair cousin.
Fair cousin, I am greater than a king, for when I was king, my flatterer was within my subjects, but now as subject, I have a king here to my flatterer. Being so great, I have no need to beg.
Yet ask.
And shall I have?
You shall.
Then give me leave to go.
Whither?
Whither you will, so I were from your sight.
Go some of you, convey him to the tower.
Oh, good, convey, conveyors are you all that rise thus nimbly by a true king's fall.
On Wednesday next, we solemnly set down our coronation. Lords, prepare yourselves.
A woeful pageant have we here beheld.
The woes to come. The children yet unborn shall feel this day as sharp to them as thorn.
You holy clergyman, is there no plot to rid the realm of this pernicious blot?
Before I freely speak my mind herein, you shall not only take the sacrament to bury mine intents, but also to effect whatever I shall happen to devise. I see your brows are full of discontent, your heart of sorrow, and your eyes of tears. Come home with me to supper. I'll lay a plot, shall show us all a merry day.
This way the king will come. This is the way to Julius Caesar's ill-erected tower, to whose flint bosom my condemned lord is doomed a prisoner by proud Bolingbroke. Here, let us rest, if this rebellious earth have any resting for her true king's queen. But soft, but see, or rather do not see, my fair rose wither, yet look up. Behold, that you in pity may dissolve to dew, and wash him fresh again with true love tears. Ah, thou, the model where old Troy did stand, thou map of honor, thou King Richard's tomb, and not King Richard, thou most beauteous in. Why should hard-favored grief be lodged in thee, when triumph is become an alehouse guest?
Join not with grief, fair woman, do not so, to make my end too sudden. Learn, good soul, to think our former state a happy dream, from which awaked the truth of what we are shows us but this. I am sworn brother sweet to grim necessity, and he and I will keep a league till death. Hie thee to France and close to thee in some religious house. Our holy lives must win a new world's crown, which our profane hours have stricken down.
What, is my Richard both in shape and mind transformed and weakened? Hath Bolingbroke deposed thine intellect? Hath he been in thy heart? The lion dying thrusteth forth his paw and wounds the earth, if nothing else, with rage to be o'erpowered. And wilt thou, pupil-like, take thy correction mildly, kiss the rod, and fawn on rage with base humility, which art a lion and a king of beasts?
Ha! A king of beasts indeed, if aught but beasts I had been, still a happy king of men. Good sometime, queen, prepare thee hence for France. Think I am dead, and that even here thou takest as from my deathbed my last living leave. In winter's tedious nights, sit by the fire with good old guide, and thou that bid good night to quit their grief, tell them the lamentable fall of me, and send the hearers weeping to their beds. For why? The senseless brands will sympathize the heavy accent of thy moving tongue, and in compassion weep the fire out. And some will mourn in ashes, some coal black for the deposing of a rightful king.
Enter Northumberland.
My lord, the mind of
My
Bolingbroke.
lord, you told me you would tell the rest. Oh, that's mine. Isn't that, aren't we at the
Lord,
page 107? Yes, that's mine. The Duchess.
page 104.
We're on 104.
Where are we? What page are we on?
104.
104.
I'm sorry, I lost my place. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm off.
Ooh. Would Richard like to give the cue again?
Yes. And some will mourn in ashes, some coal black for the deposing of a rightful king.
My lord, the mind of Bolingbroke is changed. You must to Pomfret, not unto the Tower. And madam, there is order ta'en for you. With all swift speed, you must away to France.
Northumberland, thou ladder wherewithal the mounting Bolingbroke ascends my throne, the time shall not be many it is ere foul. Thou shalt think that he divide the realm and give thee half, it is too little, helping him to all. He shall think that thou knowest the way to plant unrightful kings, will know again, being ne'er so little urged another way, to pluck him headlong from the usurped throne. The love of wicked friends converts to fear, that fear to hate, and hate turns one or both to worthy danger and deserved death.
My guilt be on my head, there an end. Take leave and part, for you must part forthwith.
Doubly divorced? Bad men, ye violated a twofold marriage twixt my crown and me, and then betwixt me and my married wife. Let me unkiss the oath twixt thee and me, and yet not so, for with a kiss 'twas made. Part us, Northumberland. I towards the north, where shivering cold and sickness pines the clime, my queen to France, from whence, set forth in pomp, she came adored hither like a sweet May, sent back like Columbus, or shortest of day.
And must we be divided? Must we part?
I, hand from hand, my love, and heart from heart.
Banish us both, and send the king with me.
Ha! That were some love, but little policy.
And whither he goes, thither let me go.
So two together weeping make one woe. Weep thou for me in France. For thee here better far off than near, be near the near. Go, count thy way with sighs, I mine with groans.
So longest way shall have the longest moans.
Twice for one step I'll groan, the way being short, and piece the way out with a heavy heart. Come, come, in wooing sorrow, let's be brief, since wedding it, there is such length in grief. One kiss shall stop our mouths, and dumbly part. Thus give I mine, and thus take I thy heart.
Give me mine own again. 'Twere no good part to take on me to keep, and kill thy heart. So now I have mine own again, be gone, that I may strive to kill it with a groan.
We make war wanton with this fond delay. Once more adieu, the rest let sorrow say.
My lord, you told me you would tell the rest when weeping made you break the story off of our two cousins coming into London.
Where did I leave?
Oh, at that sad stop, my lord, where rude misgoverned hands from windows' tops threw dust and rubbish on King Richard's head.
Then, as I said, the Duke, great Bolingbroke, mounted upon a hot and fiery steed, with his aspiring rider seemed to know, with slow but stately pace, to keep on his course, while all the tongues cried, God save thee, Bolingbroke! You would have thought the very windows spake, so many greedy looks of young and old through their casements darted their desiring eyes upon his visage, and that all the walls with painted imagery had said at once, Jesu preserve thee, welcome Bolingbroke, whilst he, from one side to the other turning, bareheaded, lower than his proud steed's neck, bespake them thus, I thank you, countrymen. And thus still doing, thus he passed along.
Alas, poor Richard, where rides he the whilest?
As in a theatre, the eyes of men, after a well-graced actor leaves the stage, are idly bent on him that enters next, thinking his prattle to be tedious. Even so, or with much more contempt, men's eyes did scowl on Richard. No man cried, God save him. No joyful tongue gave him his welcome home, but dust was thrown upon his sacred head, which with such gentle sorrow he shook off, his face still combating with tears and smiles the badges of his grief and patience, that had not God for some strong purpose steeled the hearts of men, they must perforce have melted, and barbarism itself have pitied him. But heaven hath a hand in these events, and those to whose high will we bound our calm contents. To Bolingbroke are we sworn subjects now, with state and honor, eye for eye allow.
Oh, but here comes my son, Emerl.
O Merle that was, but that is lost, for being Richard's friend, and madam, you must call him Rutland now. I am in Parliament, pledge for his truth and lasting fealty to the new-made king.
Welcome, my son. Who are the violets now that strew the green lap of the new-come spring?
Madam, I know not, nor I greatly care not. God knows I had as lief be none as one.
Well, fare you well in this new spring of time, lest you be cropped before you come to prime. What news from Oxford? Hold those jousts and triumphs?
For aught I know, my lord, they do.
You will be there, I know.
If God prevent not, I purpose so.
What seal is that hangs without thy bosom? Yea, look'st thou pale? Let me see the writing.
My lord, 'tis nothing.
Well, no matter then, who sees it? I will be satisfied. Let me see the writing.
I do beseech your grace to pardon me. It is a matter of small consequence, which for some reason I would not have seen.
Which for some reasons, sir, I mean to see. I fear.
What should you fear? 'Tis nothing but some bond that he has entered into for gay apparel against the triumph.
Bound to himself? What doth he with a bond that he is bond to? Wife, thou art a fool. Boy, let me see the writing.
I do beseech you, pardon me. I may not show it.
I will be satisfied. Let me see it, I say. Treason, foul treason, villain, traitor, slave.
Oh, what's the matter, my lord?
Ho, who's within there? Saddle my horse. Heaven for his mercy, what treachery is here?
Why, what is it, my lord?
Give me my boots, I say. Saddle my horse. Now, by my honor, my life, my troth, I will appeach the villain.
What is the matter?
Oh, peace, foolish woman.
I will not peace. What is the matter, son?
But mother, be content. It is no more than my poor life must answer.
Thy life, Hampton?
Bring me my boots. I will unto the king.
Oh, strike him, Emerald. Oh, poor boy, you're amazed. Hence, villain, never more come in my sight.
Give me my boots, I say.
Why, you hawk, what wilt thou do? Wilt thou not hide the trespass of thine own? Have we more sons, or are we like to have? Is not my teeming date drunk up with time, and wilt thou pluck my fair son from mine age, and rob me of a happy mother's name? Is he not like thee? Is he not thy own?
Thou fond mad woman, wilt thou conceal this dark conspiracy? A dozen of them here have tamed the sacrament and interchangeably set down their hands to kill the king at Oxford.
Oh, he shall be none. We'll keep him here. Then what is that to him?
Away, fond woman. Were he 20 times my son, I would appeach him.
Hast thou groaned for him as I had done? Thou wouldst be more pitiful. But now I know thy mind. Thou dost suspect that I have been disloyal to thy bed, and that he is a bastard, not thy son. Oh, sweet York, sweet husband, be not of that mind. He is as like thee as a man may be, not like to me nor any of my kin, and yet I love him.
Make away, unruly woman.
Oh, after him, Earl, mount thee upon his horse, spur post, and get before him to the king, and beg thy pardon ere he do accuse thee. And not be long behind, though I be old, I doubt not, but to ride as fast as York, and never will I rise from the ground to Bolingbroke have pardoned thee. Away, begone!
Enter Bolingbroke, Percy, and other lords. Bolingbroke or Henry IV now.
I'm here. I'm so sorry. I have to find the part in the script again.
113.
113. Okay. I'll be
113.
there in
113.
I'll be there in a moment as soon as I can. I'm getting there. 99.
113.
Yes. 109. Can no man tell of my unthrifty son? 'Tis full 3 months since I did see him last. If any plague hang over us, 'tis he. I would to heaven, my lords, he might be found. Enquire at London mongst the taverns there. For there, they say, he daily doth frequent with unrestrained loose companions. Even such, they say, as stand in narrow lanes and rob our watch and beat our passengers, which he, young, wanton, and effeminate boy, takes on the point of honor to support so dissolute a crew.
My lord, some 2 days since I saw the prince and told him of these triumphs held at Oxford.
And what said the gallant?
His answer was, he would unto the stews, and from the commonest creature pluck a glove and wear it as a favor. And with that, he would unhorse the lustiest challenger.
As dissolute as desperate. Yet, through both, I see some sparks of better hope, which elder days may happily bring forth. But who comes here?
Where's the king?
What means our cousin that he stares and looks so wildly?
God save your grace. I do beseech your majesty to have some conference with your grace alone.
Withdraw yourselves and leave us here alone. What is the matter with our cousin now?
Forever may my knees grow to the earth, my tongue cleave to my roof within my mouth, unless a pardon ere I rise or speak.
Intended or committed was this fault? If on the first, how heinous ere it be, to win thy after-love, I pardon thee.
Then give me leave that I may turn the key, that no man enter till my tale be done.
Have thy desire.
My liege, beware, look to thyself, thou hast a traitor in thy presence there.
Villain, I'll make thee safe.
Stay thy revengeful hand, thou hast no cause to fear.
Open the door, secure, foolhardy king. Shall I for love speak treason to thy face? Open the door, or I will break it open.
What is the matter, uncle? Speak. Recover breath. Tell us how near is danger, that we may arm us to encounter it.
Peruse this writing here, and thou shalt know the reason that my haste forbids me show.
Remember as thou readst thy promise past. I do repent me. Read not my name there. My heart is not confederate with my hand.
It was, villain, ere thy hand had set it down. I tore it from the traitor's bosom, king. Fear and not love begets his penitence. Forget to pity him, lest thy pity prove a serpent that will sting thee to the heart.
O heinous, strong, and bold conspiracy. O loyal father of a treacherous son. Thou sheer, immaculate, and silver fountain from whence the stream through muddy passages hath had his currents and defiled himself, thy overflow of good converts to bad, and thy abundant goodness shall excuse this deadly blot in thy digressing son.
So shall my virtue be his vice's bawd, and he shall spend my honor with his shame? As thriftless sons their scraping father's gold, mine honor lives when his dishonor dies, or my shamed life in his dishonor lies. Thou kill'st me in his life, giving him breath. The traitors live, the true man's put to death.
What ho, my liege? For heaven's sake, let me in.
What shrill-voiced suppliant makes this eager cry?
A woman in thine hand, great king, 'tis I. Speak with me, pity me, open the door. A beggar cries that never begged before.
Our scene is altered from a serious thing and now changed to the beggar and the king. My dangerous cousin, let your mother in. I know she's come to pray for your foul sin.
If thou do pardon whosoever pray, more sins for this forgiveness prosper may. This festered joint cut off, the rest rests sound. This let alone will all the rest confound.
O king, believe not this hard-hearted man. Loving not itself, none other can.
Thou frantic woman, what dost thou make here? Shall thy old dugs once more a traitor rear?
Oh, sweet York, be patient. Hear me, gentle liege.
Rise up, good aunt.
Not yet, I be beseech. Forever will I kneel upon my knees, and never see day that the happy sees, till thou give joy, until thou bid me joy, by pardoning Rutland, my transgressing boy.
And to my mother's prayers I bend my knee.
Against them both my true joints bended be.
Oh, please he in earnest, look upon his face. His eyes do drop no tears. His prayers are in jest. His words come from his mouth, ours with our breast. He prays but faintly and would be denied. We pray with heart and soul and all beside. His weary joints would gladly rise, I know. Our knees shall kneel to the ground they grow. His prayers are full of false hypocrisy, ours of true zeal and deep integrity. Our prayers do out his, then let them have that mercy which true prayers ought to have.
Good aunt, stand up.
Nay, do not say stand up, but pardon first, and afterwards stand up. And if I were thy nurse, thy tongue to teach, pardon should be the first word of thy speech. I never long to hear words who now say pardon. King, let pity teach thee how. The word is short, but not so short as sweet. No word like pardon for king's mouth so meet.
Speak it in French, king, say pardonnez-moi.
Dost thou teach pardon to destroy? Oh, my sour husband, my hard-hearted lord, that sets the word itself against the word. Speak pardon as 'tis current in our land. Speak pardon as 'tis current in our land. The chopping French we do not understand. Thine eye begins to speak. Set thy tongue there, or in thy piteous heart plant thou thy ear, that hearing how our pliance and prayers do pierce, pity may move thee, pardon to rehearse.
Good aunt, stand up.
I do not suit to stand. Pardon is all the suit I have in hand.
I pardon him, as heaven shall pardon me.
Oh, happy vantage of the kneeling knee. Oh, yet I am sick with fear. Speak it again. Twice saying pardon, doth not pardon twain, that makes one pardon strong.
I pardon him with all my heart.
Oh, God on earth thou art.
But for our trusty brother-in-law, the abbot, with all the rest of that consorted crew, destruction straight shall dog them at the heels. Good uncle, help to order several powers to Oxford, or where'er these traitors are. They shall not live within this world, I swear, but I will have them if I once know where. Uncle, farewell, and cousin, adieu. Your mother well hath prayed, and prove you true.
Oh, come, my old son. I pray heaven make thee new.
Didst thou not mark the king what words he spake? Have I no friend will rid me of this living fear? Was it not so?
Those were his very words.
Have I no friend, quoth he? He spake it twice, and urged it twice together, did he not?
He did.
And speaking it, he wistfully looked on me as who should say, I would thou wert the man that would divorce this terror from my heart, meaning the king at Pomfret. Come, Let's go. I am the king's friend and will rid his foe.
I have been studying how to compare this prison where I live into the world. And because the world is populous and here is not a creature but myself, I cannot do it. But yet I'll hammer it out. My brain, I'll prove the female to my soul the father, and these two beget a generation of still breeding thoughts. And these same thoughts people this little world in humors like the people of this world, for no thought is contented. The better sort, as thoughts of things divine, are intermixed with scruples, and do set faith itself against the faith, as thus come little ones. And then again, it is as hard to come as for a camel to thread the postern of a needle's eye. Thoughts tending to ambition, they do plot unlikely wonders, how these vain weak nails may tear a passage through the flinty ribs of this hard world, my ragged prison walls. And for they cannot die in their own pride. Thoughts tending to content, flatter themselves, and they are not the first of fortune's slaves, nor shall not be the last. Like silly beggars, who, sitting in the stocks, refuge their shame that many have, and others must sit there. And in this thought, they find a kind of ease, bearing their own misfortune on the back of such as have before endured the like. Thus play I, in one prison, many people and none contented. Sometimes I am king, then treason makes me wish myself a beggar, and so I am. Then crushing penury persuades me I was better when a king. Then I am kinged again, and by, think that I am unkinged by Bolingbroke and straight am nothing. But what I am, nor I, nor any man that but man is, with nothing shall be pleased, till he be eased with being nothing. Music do I hear. Keep time. How sour sweet music is when time is broke and no proportion kept. So is it the music of men's lives. And here I have the daintiness of ear to hear time broke in a disordered string. But for the concord of my state and time, had not an ear to hear my true time broke. I wasted time. And now time doth waste me. For now hath time made me this numbering clock. My thoughts are minutes, and with my sighs they jar their watches on unto my eyes, the outward watch, whereto my finger like a dial's points is pointing still in cleansing them from tears. Now, sir, the sound that tells what hour it is, that clamorous groans that strike upon my heart. Which is the bell. So sighs and tears and groans show minutes, hours, and times. But night time runs posting on in Bolingbroke's proud joy, while I stand fooling here, his jack of the clock. Oh, this music mads me, let it sound no more, for though it have holp madmen to their wits, in me it seems it will make wise men mad. Yet blessing on his heart that gives it me, for 'tis a sign of love, and love to Richard is a strange brooch in this all-hating world.
Hail, royal prince. Hail,
Thanks,
royal
peer.
prince.
Thanks, noble peer. The cheapest of us is 10 groats too dear. What art thou, and how comest thou hither? Where no man ever comes, but that sad dog that brings me food to make misfortune live.
I was a poor groom of thy stable, king, when thou wert king, who traveling towards York with much ado, at length have gotten leave to look upon my sometimes royal master's face. Oh, how it yearned my heart when I beheld in London streets that coronation day, when Bolingbroke rode on roan Barbary, that horse that thou so often hast bestrid, that horse that I so carefully have dressed.
Rode him on Barbary? Tell me, gentle friend, how went he under him?
So proudly, as if he had disdained the ground.
So proud that Bolingbroke was on his back, that jade hath eat bread from my royal hand. This hand hath made him proud with clapping him. Would he not stumble? Would he not fall down, since pride must have a fall, and break the neck of that proud man that did usurp his back? No, forgiveness, horse. Why do I rail on thee? Since thou created to be awed by man, was it born to bear? I was not made a horse. And yet I bear a burden like an ass, spur-galled and tired by jouncing Bolingbroke.
Fellow, give place, here is no longer stay.
If thou love me, 'tis time thou wert away.
What my tongue dares not, that my heart shall say.
My lord, wilt please you to fall too?
Taste of it first, as thou wert wont to do.
My lord, I dare not. Sir Piers of Exton, who lately came from the king, commands the contrary.
The devil take Henry of Lancaster and thee. Patience is stale, I am weary of it.
Help, help, help!
How now? What means death in this rude assault? Villain, thine own hand yields thy death's instrument. Go thou and fill another room in hell. That hand shall burn a never-quenching fire that staggers thus my person. Exton, my fierce friend, hath with the king's blood stained the king's own lands. Mount, mount, my soul. Thy seat is up on high, whilst my gross flesh sinks downward here to die.
As full of valor as of royal blood, both have I spilt. Oh, would the deed were good! For now the devil that told me I did well says that this deed is chronicled in hell. This dead king to the living king I'll bear. Take hence the rest and give them burial here.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, can you tell me what page?
126, page 126. Sina Quinta, flourish, enter Bolingbroke, York, with other lords in attendance.
Kind Uncle York, the latest news we hear is that the rebels have consumed with fire our town of Cirencester in Gloucestershire. But whether they be ta'en or slain we hear not. Welcome, my lord, what is the news?
First, to thy sacred state, which I all happiness. The next news is I have to London sent the heads of Salisbury, Spencer, Blunt, and Kent. The manner of their taking may appear at large discoursed in this paper here.
We thank thee, gentle Percy, for thy pains, and to thy worth will add right worthy gains.
My lord, I have from Oxford sent to London the heads of Brockus and Sir Bennet Seeley, two of the dangerous consorted traitors that sought at Oxford thy dire overthrow.
Thy pains, Fitzwater, shall not be forgot. Right noble is thy merit, well I wot.
The grand conspirator, abbot of Westminster, with clog of conscience and sour melancholy, hath yielded up his body to the grave. And here is Carlyle, living to abide thy kingly doom, and sentence of his pride.
Carlyle, this is your doom. Choose out some secret place, some reverent room more than thou hast, and with it enjoy thy life. So as thou livest in peace, die free from strife. For though mine enemy thou hast ever been, high sparks of honor in thee have I seen.
Great king, within this coffin I present thy buried fear. Herein all breathless lies the mightiest of thy greatest enemies, Richard of Bordeaux, by me hither brought.
Exton, I thank thee not, for thou hast wrought a deed of slaughter with thy fatal hand upon my head and all this famous land.
From your own mouth, my lord, did I this deed.
I love not poison that to poison need, nor do I thee, though I did wish him dead. I hate the murderer, love him murdered. The guilt of conscience take thou for thy labor, but neither my good word nor princely favor. With Cain go wander through the shade of night, and never show thy head by day nor light. Lords, I protest my soul is full of woe, that blood should sprinkle me to make me grow. Come mourn with me for that I do lament, and put on sullen black incontinent. I'll make a voyage to the Holy Land to wipe this blood off from my guilty hand. March sadly after, grace my mourning here, and weeping after this untimely bier.
Exeunt fini. Well done, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Well done, and everyone, very good job. It's great to have Steve and Angus from our very first season still with the company 23 years later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're
good
still
job.
here.
And
God knows.
Don't rub it
It's
in,
nice
Paul.
to see Steve again. I haven't seen you in a while. Hi.
Thank
My
you very much.
expression
How's your
appeared.
dad doing?
Thank God I had
Yeah.
this.
Oh, you had the script there. Yeah, my dad's doing well. We're actually going to do a reading of one of his plays next Friday night that will also then be up on YouTube.
Oh,
So,
great.
yeah,
Good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good. He's recovering better. He's recovering well.
Yeah, he had to go back to CLR to a rehabilitation for a while, but he's coming out next Friday, and we're doing a reading.
Did he have a stroke?
Brilliant.
Was he a stroke victim? Or
No, it was just some. I mean, he's 95, so it's like he had an infection, urinary infection, so he had to go to the hospital, and now he's getting back. But yeah,
good old days.
Yeah.
He's 90. He's 95. I should live that
95.
long. God.
Yes, indeed.
Good for him.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Brilliant.
I'm doing okay. Oh, and Ken's got his cat Jennifer there for us as well. But yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up on Zoom tomorrow night. Tomorrow during the day, we have the Shaw Project with Mary Quite Contrary, which Angus will also be in. Steve, you wanted to say something?
You have a question? I have a question. I was taught that wonderful speech, this sceptred isle, this demi-Eden, Queen Elizabeth was so moved that she stood up, and that since then, every Englishman stands up when he hears that speech. But when I heard Jeremy Irons do it at the National Theatre, no one stood up except me. I'm standing up there in the second balcony like an idiot. Has anybody ever seen that, Angus? Have you ever seen it in London?
No, it's that. It's the same thing that Americans think the flag is wonderful and put their hands on their hearts. It's this excessive emotionalism that the Brits don't do. But interestingly, one of the Tory ministers actually quoted the beginning of this sceptred isle, this wonderful England, quoted 2 lines, and the internet was snowed down with people quoting all the rest of it about is now cast out. because that's what the Tories have done to the country. Their greed has turned us into a barren land. I mean, I apologize for the rather not quite respectable clothing, but it's hot as shit here, and there's no air conditioning, and I don't have a fan. And even if I did, I wouldn't want to use it because it would use too much electricity.
Where are you?
Because I have in London.
Oh.
Yeah,
where
from what I've heard.
where the use of food banks has increased about 25-fold in the last 2 years, thanks to the Tories dismantling the country to feed their greed.
Foot bags.
You think the Republicans are bad? They're nothing quite so insidious as the Tories.
What is a foot bag?
What?
You said a foot bag?
No.
I
Food
may have
banks,
misheard you.
I think you said.
Food banks. Food banks.
Food
that
bank.
They have a lot of
Food
banks.
bank.
Electricity
Food
is
bank.
very expensive
Yes,
in
yes.
London.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the problem there. Huh?
Oh yeah.
Have you got all your tubes out?
Not all of them. I've got most of the tubes out. I still have an IV for an infection, but I'm doing better.
Oh,
So.
What
What was
happened?
wrong?
what happened?
Oh, well, I was in, well, I guess we can, yeah, I should end the thing, but
Yeah.
if anybody's got
Please,
anything
please.
else they want to say about Richard II, we're going to do Henry IV. We have Mary Quite Contrary next tomorrow, and next Saturday we will have